Thin nose.
Not anymore.
It behooved me.
Yeah. If you ever look at like Abe Vigoda's ears,
Yeah, they were big.
they
The
get-
ears and the nose grow.
they keep growing.
Yeah, age is a very annoying thing.
Well, that's a weird one. It's almost like to let someone know, like, hey, look at this guy's proportions are all fucked up. He's got bad juice.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. So how do I reduce? I wanted to get an ear reduction and a nose sharpening.
reduction. I'm sure people have done that. I could only imagine
Well,
if
Bruce
girls
Jenner.
are getting. Well, that's a different one. You know what I'm saying? Look at it. Big ass
Look
crazy
at
ears.
the hair in his ears. Abe,
Hey, he's not 12.
shave those ears.
Yeah, I've got hair growing out of my ears. I have to put a trimmer. Run a
Well,
trimmer
that
on
I'm
it.
vain. I pluck my If I see hair that doesn't belong somewhere, I'll take it out.
Go wax it.
My father lets his nose hair grow, his eyebrows. I'm like,
Savage.
bro, would it kill you to? Can you? I'm looking into your nose. It's a nest.
Do you really
A
call your
sparrow
father
could-
bro?
Yeah, sometimes. I get so mad at him because the way he eats sometimes. Like we were in Mexico, and he would just show up. He'd go to breakfast. He has this belly, and he's got 4 French toasts and a waffle and a banana. And I'm just sitting there, and I get so mad. And then I started texting him. I text him. I go, listen, man. You got to start changing the way you eat. And I go, and I'm angry as I'm texting this. I'm getting more angry. So stop the bullshit and start eating. No, I was so angry. I had to tell him that my heart was beating. I was furious. I couldn't have texted faster. I go, get it together and stop eating bullshit. And would it kill you to fucking move a little bit? Bang. And I just sent that.
Whoa,
Yeah.
strong.
I don't want him to die.
Does he exercise at all?
Fuck no. And I'll tell you why. When he was young, he was poor and he had to do manual labor. He had to work construction. He had to do everything with his hands. So now that he has money, it reminds him of you ask him to do shit, if you ask him to help you with a table, it reminds him of when he was poor and how awful it was.
I was reading a book once on powerlifting, and one of the things that they suggested is getting a manual labor job.
That's when you have to move furniture.
Yeah.
Okay, when you got to carry couches upstairs. Yeah, that'll.
But I
that'll
never
get you.
saw that. I never saw anybody actually recommend that someone do that in order to get stronger.
Well, when you, my friend who wrestled and played football on a high level, they used to work the farm, and there was a thing where you would take hay and you'd run after the truck, and the truck's up, you take the hay and you throw it off. I guess you'd.
Right.
Just doing that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you
get
can
crazy strong.
I worked construction one summer in Washington D.C. in the 95-degree heat, and I had to dig a foundation for a building, for a house, just dig into the ground all day, and then we had to demolish a house and take that debris, put it into a truck, and then drive it to a landfill called Lawton, I think, and then we'd take it off the truck. So that movement of digging and then like demolition and digging and piling it in a truck and then piling it off a truck, you're too exhausted to do a goddamn thing. You're not working out after that. Your body is done.
If you do work out and you get used to it, though, I think that's the idea, is that your body becomes way more resilient. That's what he was saying. If you could get a job like as a mason or some sort of manual labor on a construction site where you're carrying lumber, you'd just be lifting things up, carrying it around all the time, your body would just naturally get stronger.
The strongest guy I've ever felt in my life in jiu-jitsu was a Mexican guy who was a mason.
Oh, yeah, man.
I couldn't move
bricks,
him. I couldn't believe how nothing worked on him.
Just imagine like picking up bricks all day long, just carrying bricks. Everything would just get stronger. Yeah.
I worked with a guy named Boo Jack in D.C. Boo Jack.
Whoa.
Giant black guy who was a mason.
Is that 2 words or 1 word?
Just called himself Boo Jack. I called him Boo. And he'd go, Boo Jack.
That was probably his one name, right?
Yep.
Do you think it was his last name or his first name?
I think it was his whole name. Boo Jack.
Really?
Great name.
So a superhero or something?
He should
or
be a
rapper?
superhero. Just a giant, very, very friendly, jolly black man with the biggest, strongest hands I've ever seen. He was a mason.
Speaking of big, jolly black man with one name, I met Sinbad the other day. I never met Sinbad before.
Good guy, right?
Met him in a parking lot. Our cars were right next to each other. Fully random. Just fully random.
Was he wearing a dangly earring?
I didn't check.
Was he dressed in a colorful manner, or?
No, he was very understated. He seemed completely normal. Like I don't remember what he was wearing. He might be wearing what you're wearing right now.
He always struck me as a nice,
very,
dude.
very nice guy.
Yeah.
Very nice guy.
And what's he doing now?
Doing stand up still, touring.
Yeah,
You know.
still got an audience.
Oh yeah, he's a funny dude, man. Apparently, he was really funny on Kill Tony. They did a Kill Tony episode, and Sinbad sat in as one of the guest judges.
Yeah.
You know, they have a new guest judge every week, and they said he was killer.
Yeah, dudes who've been doing it for that long,
Yeah.
they've got some tricks up their sleeve.
And he's
Don't
a
be
real
surprised.
comic. He's a real comic. He's been around forever.
Been communicating with an audience for a long time.
But it was just nice to meet him and see that he's a nice guy. You know, that was nice.
You ever met anybody who was not so nice?
If I did,
It's the wrong way to
maybe 5
actually
years
phrase
ago
it.
I would have told you.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, why?
I know
Why
what you
bring heat on someone from some weird moment that
I
I
agree.
probably could have done myself if I was.
So true.
If you run into someone, you're in the wrong headspace. Maybe you just got done. Somebody yelled at you. Maybe you have a business deal that went bad. Maybe you got cut off on the highway. You never know when you're running into people. It's just, we vary so much.
Look,
we
dude,
we would
we're-
like to encourage each other to be on a good track all the time.
Yeah.
But I think we need a little bit more forgiveness when someone does something stupid.
I'm going to call my next special, I think, Bipolar Ape, because that is what we are. We are, man. I mean, and if
Yeah.
you stop and you freeze frame on somebody when they're having a moment, you can catch them in any, like that whole spectrum, the human spectrum, sinner and saint, and anything in between.
Yeah.
You can catch them in a terrible moment or a great moment, but you can't decide that that's what they are all the time. And that's what we're doing now. Let's
Isn't
be
it
honest.
funny too that we quantify certain things that are just dumb? Like there's certain things you're just not going to bounce back from. The Rachel Dolezal thing, when she pretended she was black but she really isn't black. Like
that's a little too much.
You know what I'm saying? But there's like those things
Yeah.
where it becomes a nationwide thing, and I bet she's a lovely lady. I don't know. I have no idea.
That might be empathy gone wild, or that might be sort of this. I think a lot of times everybody wants to be an individual. They want that's always been a problem with the human condition, right? You want
Right.
to be unique. We all
Right.
do, right?
Yeah.
Even though we all believe in equality, we all want to be not equal. We want to be a little better than the next guy, or at least unique.
Yeah.
And that's maybe where competition comes from and stuff. But I think sometimes people negotiate that issue and that problem with a very clumsy apparatus, with a really weird way of doing it. I'm going to be transracial, or I'm going to wear dishes in my ears and literally cover my whole face with tattoos. That's fine.
Super common now.
There might be a better way to negotiate that problem you're having, because it's still pretty surface.
You ever look at the hashtag face tattoo on Instagram?
No.
Holy shit. There's
crazy,
a
though.
lot of people getting their face tattooed.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, what? Slow down.
Yeah.
Slow down.
It goes back to wanting to be seen.
Well, I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense in terms of like people wanting to belong to a group that seems cool. And like black people seem like overall a cool group, right? Like you have good music behind it. They have a funny way of talking. They have all these amazing pro athletes. They have a totally different kind of culture. And you identify with that culture, but you can't get in because you're a white girl. You're like, shit.
It's
what
also
do I
something.
do?
It's also something. I think also there's a romance to
Yeah,
when
sure.
you're on the outside looking in. It's struggle.
Oh, yeah.
And having been oppressed and all those
Yeah.
things, and yet you triumph. Yet you find a way to be funny. Yet you find a way to be colorful. Yet you find a way to be artistic. Rap came from the South Bronx while it was literally on fire.
Yeah, and rap is just one aspect of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Some of the very best stand-up comedians, some of the very best musicians.
Jazz, dude.
Yeah, and you think of the percentage of the population that's black.
12%.
And the percentage that become elite professional athletes. I mean, what is the percentage of NBA players that are black? It's something crazy.
A lot of it's also just.
What is it, you think?
I don't know, but it's
Take a
pretty
guess.
high. I mean, there's
69%?
probably something like that.
I don't know why I said that number. Jamie,
A lot of it might be just also that there are two avenues open to you in a lot of black communities. At least it's changing, but it was sports and music, right?
Yeah, for sure. That probably plays a part in it, no doubt about it. But it's also, there's an extraordinary number of professional athletes, like elite athletes,
Yeah.
that just happen to be black. And what is that though? Is it genetic? Is it the environment they're coming from? I mean, it's a fascinating thing to be explored, because for all this talk of racism, if you just want to be really honest, there's a lot of African Americans that have some pretty phenomenal genetic traits. Like Carl, like think of like who's like Jamie, who's like the biggest freak all-time athlete basketball player would it be?
Probably LeBron James.
LeBron James, probably, right? Sure. Yeah. And then you have like Michael Jordan, who's another freak athlete, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how many of those
Vince
white
Carter,
guys, how many
Vince
white
Carter.
guys are like that?
It's tough because people would then argue like Larry Bird, but like,
Larry
he's
Bird
not,
was a
like,
phenomenal shooter, but he wasn't the kind of freak athlete LeBron is,
Or Dr.
Jordan.
J,
when
or-
Jordan used to literally fly through the air.
Yeah.
There are a couple guys that can do things like that, but they don't have the overall skill package or whatever.
Well, so if you look at, there's a book called The Sports Gene that talks about this.
Yeah,
and
I read it.
if you look at Africa, it's probably the most genetically diverse part of the world, right? I mean, the Africans from the Biafra coast are totally different than the Africans from say, the highlands of Kenya or Ethiopia. The Africans from the Sudan, the Dinka and the Nua tend to be almost 7'6" sometimes. Certainly 7 feet is not that uncommon.
And many people don't realize Egypt's a part of Africa.
Very much so. I mean, the Tunisia, Morocco, that's more Arabic, right? But then you've got, I mean, it's fascinating. This is what really was fascinating. Let's go to Ethiopia. Ethiopia, they grow to an average height, beautiful people. There's a lot of trade in that side of the world. Eritrea, they've been renowned for their beauty. If you just step over the border, just go right to just one south or one north, you are going into Sudan or the South Sudan. Tallest people in the world. I mean, some of them can be like a fist off at 8 feet. That's where like Manute Bol and those people came from, okay? If you go just another country, just one more country east, now you're in the Congo, and that's home to the pygmy. So you got the shortest people in the world in one country, and then just cross the border and you have the tallest in the world in that country. So Africa is insanely diverse. But if you look at the athletes with the most explosive power, and if you like that includes the fastest people in the world who are in Jamaica and who are, in the United States, genetically you can trace them back to a very primarily you can trace them back to a very small part of Africa, according to this book, The Sports Gene, which is the Biafra coast. And so that's where you'll see the fastest, most explosive people. However, having said that, you can hear Deion Sanders watching this white running back, 215 pounds. He ran a 4.35 40. And he was like, I can't say this on TV, but he can run. He can run. And it was true. It's like you haven't seen a white guy run a 4.35 in forever.
Yeah, it's pretty rare.
There's
got to be some Viking genes floating around.
Sure, but there's no, I don't think there's any black cornerbacks in the NFL. Can you see any white cornerbacks?
It's just fascinating when you stop and think about just the sheer number of people involved in professional athletics. The sheer number of people that make a living playing a game with their body.
Yeah, but I don't know if that kind of athleticism helps you become a champion in tennis. You know, depends on the sport. It's sport specific, right?
Well, I mean, first of all, black people historically have not been into tennis.
Because they didn't have money. It's a rich man's sport.
Arthur Ashe was obviously a
Venus
tennis
Williams,
champion.
Serena Williams.
Yeah, but Arthur Ashe was like way before their time, right? So he was like the groundbreaker. But now I'm sure a lot of kids are growing up in nice communities. They have tennis clubs and stuff like that, African-American kids. But it's less a thing of that culture than a thing like there's not a lot of Italian-American tennis players either. You know what I'm saying? Like my people don't play tennis. They don't get into tennis. It's not an economic thing. It's just a cultural thing.
Golf is the same way.
Yeah, so when you see all these like world-class tennis players, it just happen to be of the, rich upper crust.
Well, you need a coach. You need a lot of stuff with tennis, you know?
It's a lot going on in tennis.
Yeah.
Plus, nobody gives a shit until you're really good. Like if you're kind of like, if you have a chance, he plays semi-pro ball for, maybe he'll get into the big leagues. But if you're like, I'm a semi-pro tennis player, get a fucking job, bitch.
Right.
What are you doing? You're playing tennis?
It takes a long time.
I used to know this dude who was a professional racquetball player, and that was the grindiest of all grinds. Because when I was 19, I recognized, like, oh no, this dude done painted himself into a corner. He's like a world champion. It's something nobody gives a fuck about.
I know, nobody cares.
Dude, nobody cared. And people would like treat him like, oh, poor guy. Like that was part of it. It was like, he's awesome, but poor guy. But,
I feel that way when I watch the biathlon and the Olympics and shit, or curling, or
Yeah.
any of those sports.
Well,
I'm like,
curling is, don't talk shit about curling in Newfoundland. If you go up there in Canada, they get fucking angry at you.
I don't give a fuck.
They get mad.
Also, I don't care that you replayed the curling move in slow motion. I didn't miss it in regular motion. You know, there's just certain sports I don't. I think they're skills, they're not sports.
Like, how do racists deal with the fact that there's so many elite black athletes? What is how does a racist look at it, and how do you see white superiority in that many elite black athletes?
I've heard guys in New York, white guys would always say this about I'd hear white dudes in New York talk about black and white athletes like this. They'd be like, well, he's a brother, so obviously he's going to be faster and stronger. But this kid over here has got heart and he's got smarts. And so the white guy apparently got heart, he had brain, whereas the black guy only has muscle. It was a clear indication that it was such a racist kind of way of delineating,
right.
you know?
Well, it's also delusional because people want to assume that because someone has physical attributes, they don't have mental attributes. Exactly. They always want to say that. And sometimes it's true because sometimes when you have physical attributes, life is easier for you and you get soft.
Yeah.
You don't have to work as hard.
Yeah.
Like one of the more impressive guys in the UFC for me has always been Frankie Edgar because that guy's just a product of hard work. He's never been a knockout puncher. He's not the biggest guy. He's always been small for whatever division he's in. And he's small at 55 and he's pretty small at 45 in comparison to some guys like Ortega we fought this weekend.
Right.
You know, Bryan's much bigger than him, taller, longer. He's just all heart and will and toughness and I love that, and I think that's an admirable thing, and I think you can get a lot out of watching a guy like that. But it doesn't mean that a guy can't have that mindset and also have some fucking Ray Lewis body.
Well, Michael Jordan was the example of that.
Yeah.
Nobody, and Kobe Bryant was the same way.
Nobody works harder. That's why they love to win in an almost psychotic way.
Yeah, extreme winners are that way.
Yeah, that whole thing, that extreme winners is why we're here, folks. It's why it's so compelling. I mean, you had to have some ungodly resolve to get through the Mongol era and the fucking caveman era and think about all the different shit that's happened in between. Just think about the people that colonized this country. We were so far removed from people who lived here and rode wagons across the country just 200 years ago. That's nothing. That just happened.
They did this study. Camille Paglia was talking about this. Why were most of the people that revolutionized the human condition male? Like, so in other words, the printing press and Einstein and Copernicus and Galileo and Kepler and, all these people that kind of like, and why so few women? And so a lot of academic circles the only single variable answer is that women were kept down by the patriarchy or whatever it might be. Very condescending, though, if you think about it, because that would suggest that women didn't find their way through the cracks. Some of them did, but for the most part, and there's some truth to that, but for the most part, there's another really interesting theory that men and women tend to have two different kinds of brains. We've evolved to have two different brains because women have to watch out for children and pay attention to the minutiae and keep them away from death. Whereas men have the kind of brain that can obsess over just one thing, even if it doesn't really bear any relation to the material world. So they can think about whether time bends or whether the relationship between time and matter and space, and they'll just zero in on that problem and obsess over that problem. And you have those extreme winners that literally, to the exclusion of everything else, including their family, including other people, focused on just one thing. But in a lot of ways, thank God we had that aberration, because that is what revolutionizes, that is what changes a lot about how we live.
They're little explosions that make this thing move quicker.
Yeah.
They're the combustion inside the engine that is human civilization. Every now and then you get someone that just is an outlier, some Elon Musk character that's drilling holes under Los Angeles and building fucking power stations for solar power for people's houses, making fucking cars and shooting
everybody
rockets
goes,
into
it's
space.
never going to work. It's never going to work. It's never going to work.
He's like, shut up.
Yeah.
He's just so much smarter. We let him drill under the city. We're like, go ahead. You know what you're doing. Everybody just lets him do it.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if like a regular person wanted to drill underneath the cities and make tubes and they'd be like, that's the dumbest idea ever. You're going to drop down, a car is going to go on a train, and the train's going to go really fast with the car underground. Shut the fuck up.
You should have this guy, Andrew Keen, on your podcast. I interviewed him. He wrote a book called How to Fix the Future, and also a book called The Internet's Not the Answer, and another book called The Call to the Amateur. and kind of likens in the Cult of the Amateur. He likens, you know, the infinite monkey metaphor. You ever heard that?
Yes.
Yeah, it's great. So if you had an infinite number of monkeys just banging away at a typewriter, eventually one of them would type out a masterpiece like a Shakespearean play or something.
Just randomly.
Just randomly, yeah.
Can you imagine if that was real?
Yeah, and mathematically you can prove it.
I get it mathematically, but I still call bullshit.
Right. I mean,
I'm like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like, what are the odds that just randomly this monkey on just accident put the periods in the right place and the spaces in the
crazy.
right place and the commas in the right place? No.
Yeah.
No, it's impossible.
No, it is part of the law of chance.
I think that law of chance can suck a fat dick. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I've heard it before by people far smarter than me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, there's zero chance.
But
I know there's a chance.
This raises an amazing question, right? What's amazing is it's like human beings can actually reach beyond that which they can measure. Human beings, so it's not just what you can see and measure. It's actually what you can imagine, and what you can imagine actually is real. It's a part of reality,
sure.
right? So
like
infinity
monkeys.
and all that shit, yeah.
Yeah.
But he said that these infinite monkeys, that's basically what YouTube and what the internet has ushered in, right? But long story short, when you're talking about Elon Musk, he was talking about how, in his book, How to Fix the Future, of the 9 tech billionaires, they own more wealth than 1.8 billion people on this planet. We've actually never seen this kind of concentration of wealth. Luckily, guys like Jeff Bezos, who he knows really well, and these other guys like Mark Zuckerberg are kind of aware. They have some historical perspective of where they stand, and for the most part, they're doing their best to try to figure out a way to be responsible with this wealth.
There's also the fact that they're coming from a tech background, which is historically been really fucking smart people, right? Those are the innovators. So because of that, they're more left-leaning.
Yeah.
Which is probably
because they're more
better for
cooperative
everybody.
or what?
It's just the whole tech community is more left-leaning.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why anything that deviates from that is kind of punished.
Well, the problem, though, is that now you have the 4 riders of the apocalypse, Google, Facebook, Amazon, and Apple. There's so much. I mean, the amount of they have access to all your data,
right,
and to the maps. So it does kind of go. You kind of go, okay, you're left leaning, but there has never been this kind of concentration of power.
Well, but they're not doing anything with the power that we know of. What they do have is tremendous wealth, like off the charts, tremendous wealth at Apple, at Google. I mean, they just have tremendous amount of influence, and I think when you have that kind of money, like idealistic hippie left-wing dreamers are way better off like throwing that money around than like really gangster globalists that are, pro-war, really enthusiastic about right-wing politics. Like that would be way scarier. If all that money, the billions of dollars, was in a Christianic cult that thought that the second coming was going to happen in Jerusalem, so it was very important to protect Israel, which is real. There's a lot of people in this country that want to protect Israel because they think that's where Jesus is. That's his pit stop when he comes back. I do worry about. Yeah, you should worry. I do worry about very religious people with a messianic mission, and that's a real thing today. So I think like secular.
Reason-based
techno freaks who I might disagree with them on some of the most ridiculous asks, the ridiculous aspects of progressivism. Like they just go so far off the charts, and it's so common now. Everyone is getting so hysterical about things. You know who Christina Hoff Sommers is?
I love her.
She's great.
I love her.
She got literally shouted down off stage. They interrupted her speech. They put up signs. They wouldn't let her talk. They were calling her a fascist.
Boy, they sound really confident in their point of view, huh?
It's just so crazy.
Jeez.
But they
don't engage somebody in ideas. Shout them down because you're terrified.
Well, what they're doing also is they're getting on YouTube. So there's all these videos of them, being woke, #woke. Expressing their wokeness.
I've heard that expression.
Yeah, I know you have. Yeah, we were just talking about it.
Yeah,
it's a gross word.
I think it comes down to what I'm amazed at is I've talked to some of these far left ideologues, and especially the people that would shout down Christina Sommers, who's such a reasoned voice and such an
She's
important
a
voice.
sweet woman too,
and smart and thought through.
You got to let her talk, and then if you disagree with her, have a conversation with her. They typically do a Q&A at the end of these speeches. That's just rude.
Try to beat her with your ideas.
And she's a feminist. Right. Her fucking podcast is called Factual Feminist.
That's right.
That's what her thing is. Her video series that she does.
No, she's an important voice.
Very nice person, man. She's not an anti-woman in any way, shape, or form. She's not the
No,
female
I
Uncle
love
Tom.
what she has to say. I've listened to
Yeah.
her, and she wrote that book, The War on Boys. She's excellent.
She's excellent.
But I think a lot of this is like, one of the things I notice is that a lot of the left-wing ideologues like that, first of all, are fairly young. A lot of times they don't have a whole lot of experience in the world, or they are people who are like, if you just take the average journalist, and I've met a lot of them now and talked to a lot of them, the average journalist, even the average academic in colleges, or in the people that are kind of controlling this conversation in certain aspects, they have just not really ever met anybody or worked with anybody that worked with their hands, that spends a lot of time, that had to be in the military, that they tend to be pretty cloistered. Even Sam Harris, by his own admission, said that in his Rolodex of 1,100 people, he only had one friend who smoked, and that was Christopher Hitchens. That's significant. It's significant when you are exposed to one element of society. And one of the advantages that I think a comic has when you travel so much is that you're around real people that work with their hands, people that do other things, that are in the military, people that are cops, people that are essentially a huge part of the fabric of this society, who are on the right and certainly on the left. And what you start to realize is that the world is way more complicated, is always the way it is, right? It's just way more complicated. People are way less easy to pigeonhole. Just because you supported Trump doesn't necessarily mean you're a right-winger across the board. Doesn't mean you're, about the patriarchy and stuff. And I find that a lot of young people, and I find a lot of people who are trying to be woke and stuff, and we do this as Americans. It's not just the left, it's also the right. We do this as Americans. We want to find a bad guy, and we want to put a label on that bad guy. We want a single variable answer. We want a single variable solution, right? So in other words, you are a racist. You are a sexist. You are a homophobe. So you got to be sanctioned, and we got to get rid of you. And if we can get rid of racism, as if racism has anything to do with it, actually, it's about tribalism, because people don't need a difference in skin color to hate each other. Have you heard of the Middle East or Africa or even this country? It's not about the melanin in your skin. It's just we're tribal. But we tend to want to find that one label. You're a racist. You're a homophobe. By the way, you're having a moment.
Most certainly racist.
Of course there
right?
are.
Yeah.
Of course there are.
You don't think racism is the problem that we're facing? You think it's more of a tribalism issue?
I think that if everybody was the same color, we'd have no problem joining groups and hating each other. No problem. Again,
that's
please see the Middle East.
That's for sure. Yeah.
Look in Yuval Harari's
so
amazing
racism
book.
is just a symptom of that.
Yuval Harari's great book, Sapiens. Everybody should read it.
Read it.
Thank you.
On your recommendation.
The Dinka and the Nua in the Sudan, let's just take them. They look exactly the same. Just Google it. They look
Maybe
exactly
you're just
the
racist.
same. Right. They
it's
are.
Like saying all black people look exactly the same.
Well, they are basically, the only way to tell the difference is the tribal markings. But for the most part, they look exactly the same, very similar cultures, a herding culture. Dinka in the Dinka language means people. Nua in the Nua language means original people.
Whoa.
And they're sworn enemies. They fucking hate each other. Talk to Justin Wren about, talk to Justin Wren about how the pygmies are treated in the country right next door. They're brutally discriminated. They can't even go to hospitals or schools because they're short and they're magic, apparently. So go fuck yourself. It ain't about color. We don't need color to hate each other.
We definitely don't. We would find something. It would be neighborhoods or lines in the dirt or sports teams.
Fuck yes.
Yeah. We hate each other from neighboring high schools in the same town.
Yes, or we compete with each other.
Yes.
Maybe it's a good natured competition. There's nothing wrong with that either.
There's a natural need that we have to compete against each other and conquer each other, and that's because we used to do that exclusively.
Right.
That's how people moved. That's what this Viking show is all about. People coming into people's villages, fucking them up and taking all their gold, and just that's what people did forever.
Fuck yes. But here's the other thing. It's really taboo. This is so fucking taboo. Even to say this now.
What? Are you going to risk something?
So the narrative is those people aren't doing well. Let's just take any group of people.
Right.
They're not doing well.
Right.
Because there's only one answer to that. They've been put down. They've been oppressed, they've been suppressed.
Yes.
Sometimes that's true.
Right.
nobody can tell me you don't understand the history of this country unless you study the black experience at least a little bit, because that is such a huge part of the history of this country.
Sure.
And to be a black person in this country is something I have no idea about, but it hasn't been easy, granted. Let's just take any ethnic group. If you were to ever, like Thomas Sowell, who's a black scholar, if you were ever to bring up the idea that maybe part of the problem in certain groups, okay, that aren't doing well, could be internal, could be of their own making, could be that there are certain aspects of that person's culture, whether they're Inuit, whether they're Mexican, whether they're black, or whether they're a hillbilly white guy. If you start talking about the fact that their culture and the way their beliefs, their practices could have something to do with why they're not getting ahead, you better be goddamn careful, because now you're blaming the victim.
But it is true that, well, you're not really necessarily blaming the victim, right? Because a victim in this case is a person who's a part of a culture, and we're all influenced by our environment.
Yeah.
And if you're involved in a culture that has very specific ways of behaving, and you're supposed to engage in these, and whether it's female genital mutilation that they do to children on a regular basis in some parts of the world, like, why do they do that? Well, they've just been doing that. That's what they've been doing. So they just keep doing that. Like, there's a lot of weird things that people just get sucked into, and then you don't even realize what you're doing.
Right.
You're 18, you're living that life, then it becomes a part of your pattern of behavior, and then you're 35, and everyone around you is behaving the same way, and the world's filled with violence, and no one can hit the pause button and go, hey, why are we macheteing each other, Hutsus and the Tutsis? Like, what are we doing? Like, no one's like, stop. Settle the fuck down. It's like you get locked up in the momentum of your past, of the past of your family, your ancestors, your community, your environment. Very few people have complete autonomy. So the idea that we're supposed to ask somebody to just figure it out or get their shit together or pull themselves up by their bootstraps, it's pretty preposterous.
Fuck yeah.
And it's usually coming from people that got a nice, juicy hand. Like, life gave you a couple of aces, and you got a 7 over there and a 2, and you try to figure out if you can get a flush.
Yeah.
Like, you got a good hand. You got lucky. So if you say you made it with a good hand, like, oh,
yeah,
congratulations, you won the pot. You got dealt 3 aces, you cunt.
Exactly.
You got lucky.
Exactly. I'll be the first to admit that.
You should. You should be the first.
I mean, that, some people are born with more advantage than others. Just a better family.
Well, just stop for a moment, and I don't want to get too this. I'm already too social justice warrior-y in this podcast, but this is one of the things that pisses me off is that I agree with so many of those twats on so many important issues, and then they get so crazy that they want to interrupt people like Christina Hoff Sommers and yell that she's a fascist, and there's just too much conflict that doesn't make any sense today.
Yeah, they're not reasonable.
Yeah.
How about that? They're not civil or reasonable. So I don't know where else to go. Like, if you're not going to be reasonable and you're going to decide that you're that right, that your side is rooted in truth and love, and my side's rooted in falsehood and evil.
And so all these progressive issues are all. It's no one is ever like super into women's rights, but racist. Like, they're all like, there's a pattern of behavior that you're supposed to follow.
Yeah. Well,
progressivism is like it's a really interesting predetermined pattern that everybody locks into because it support gay marriage. It's like all these things.
Well, you can, it's like if you're in favor, if you believe that global warming is caused by human beings,
you've got to be on the right. You're on the left.
You're on the left.
Yeah.
You know where you stand on gay marriage, on everything else. Like that's unfortunate. You can't be sort of responsive to evidence, right? So instead of being affiliated with a party or a candidate, be affiliated with the problem. What's the problem? We all agree we don't like spree shooters, right? That sucks.
Yes.
So there's got to be a way. If we could put our ideas together, create a little idea sex, there's got to be a way. Right? There's got to be a way to
deal with this problem.
Well, can we talk about the fact that we all agree that the problem sucks? Now, you're saying we need more guns, and this other side's saying we need less guns. Is there something? Is there something we can we at least start talking instead? Because, Brendan on the podcast said, can we agree there's a gun problem? The fucking number of hate emails we got.
Did you not want to give up those guns?
And Jim Jeffries was so funny because he goes in his pod. Did you hear that stand-up bit? He goes, "Here's the argument: because I like them, so fuck off." And it's like, that's good enough.
Yeah.
The Constitution says that guns, we have a right to bear arms so we can protect ourselves against a tyrannical government, right? I mean, that's what the Second Amendment. Well, he's like, the government has drones, right? They got tanks, they got cruise missiles. Your AR-15 ain't doing shit.
Here's another problem. This is people need to understand this. The government is us. Okay? Everybody that you just described is someone who works in the military. Everyone you just described is someone who's a soldier.
Yeah.
Those soldiers are civilians. They're the same people. They're people. They're us. We're not talking about some global elites that's going to take over. They're not taking over with us.
Right.
We are not going to take over ourselves.
Yeah.
We're not. This is not a stupid fucking country. Like the idea that somehow or another the military will start taking it. What we have to be careful is people that have extreme power and shit judgment, like that cop that shot that kid in the hallway in Arizona in that horrible video.
Yeah, that was bad.
White guy shooting a white guy too, by the way. I don't even know if that has anything to do with racism with a lot of what cops are doing. I think some of it most certainly does, but I think a lot of it has to do with people that are just incompetent and they're police officers and they shouldn't be police officers. Yeah. And on top of that, I think the stress of the job just breaks people's brains.
Okay.
And I think sometimes people are just so out of their fucking mind with worrying about being shot and dealing with trauma and dealing with violence and dealing with domestic abuse and fucking murdered kids and all the fucked up things they see every day. Their brains are frazzled, man. And they're stepping out into the street and then they confront somebody and they just want to fucking shoot. They just want to shoot before they get shot. They're on a hair trigger, man.
That shit happens in a couple seconds too, right? And it's like
sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they plant a gun on the guy. I mean, sometimes it's absolutely a dirty cop.
Right.
Sometimes the guy's reaching for his wallet and they shoot him in the car with his baby in the back seat. There's been a bunch of these things, man. And I think it boils down to more than anything, people that are fucking completely incompetent at being a police officer. What's amazing is the number of interactions where you never hear shit about. What's amazing is how many people get pulled over every day, how many people deal with a cop, how many people get questioned by a cop, how many people are in a situation where a cop has to talk to them about something that happened and nothing happens and nobody gets shot. Right. It's overwhelming.
Yep.
The numbers of actual interactions where everything goes okay far outweigh the dirty cop that shoots the kid in the hallway.
Of course.
And the cop that plants the taser on the guy after he shoots him. All these different things where there's a dirty guy. That's just people.
Right.
The number of honorable police officers is actually pretty fucking stunningly positive.
Absolutely.
If you really think about it that way.
And the number of cops that save lives or stop crimes from happening and all those things.
Protect people.
But human beings have this crazy brain, right, with this negativity bias where something like violence and stuff has such an effect on our brain.
Yeah.
Like we're really good at seeing problems, but really bad at coming up with the solutions. Like we tend to jump to, so if there's a problem, if it's a very like, think about terrorism, right? People die and it's a very scary situation. Far more people die of diabetes.
Yeah.
Far more people die of heart disease.
Yeah.
Far more people die of the way you're eating. Far more. I mean, not even close.
Far more people die from all the various pharmaceutical opiates.
That's exactly right. I mean, how many people die of aspirin? Some crazy number.
I think it's 10,000.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But those things are not as sexy. But we tend to react to the things that really scare us, right?
Yeah, well, violence.
Yeah.
Violence is what gets us, not disease. Like,
Yeah.
dude, I know 2 people who have lost loved ones to the flu this year.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. One of them was a 14-year-old girl.
Oh my God.
Yeah. The flu killed her.
Jesus.
Yeah. Dude, this flu is no fucking joke.
I was down for 2 weeks.
Dude, it's
you
no
get it?
joke. I was down for a couple of days because I caught it really early on. I knew it was happening, and I did nothing. I stayed home, and I ate real good, and I just slept all day.
See,
I let my body
sleep
catch up.
and I worked out.
You
like
can't.
an asshole.
The working out ones are the worst.
Killed me.
I've had that happen before where I was thinking I was a little bit sick, and then I worked out, and it just gripped me.
Got me.
Yeah,
2
I didn't
weeks.
do.
I've never been sick like that. I hadn't been sick like that since college.
I was
down.
real proud of myself that I recognized it. I was like, something's going on here. Like I'm pretty in tune with when I'm feeling like a pussy, when I'm just lazy, and when like my body just feels off. And I'm like, my body feels off. And then I was like, oh my God. And then I was sweating.
Yep.
And I'd be sitting there, it was chilly, and then I'd be sweating. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to get under the covers and Netflix the fuck out of these couple of days. And that's all
so
I did.
good.
Yeah.
Because I did that 2 days ago where everybody in my family was sick. Everybody was getting colds. Everybody around was getting colds.
Yeah.
And it was 8 hours. I'd been sleeping 8 hours. I couldn't get out of bed. And I was like, I'm tired. I slept.
Yeah.
I fucking slept for 11 hours, felt tip top. My body fought it. I was like, I'm not moving until
It's the move,
I have
man.
to get out.
It's the move, and you
Yeah.
got to have a healthy body, folks. This is the one thing that I got from this year, and it was only, like I said, I was really only fucked up for like 2 days. But one thing I got is how wonderful it is to be healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, we take this fucking thing for granted, this vitality. You take just feeling good, like right now, I feel great.
Yeah.
I feel great.
Yeah, me too.
I ate breakfast, I worked out,
Yeah.
I'm healthy, hanging
Well,
out with my friend.
Yeah, there are two
having
things.
a little podcast.
There are two things they talk about, like when you do aid to a country. Number one is this fucking behavioral scientist named, he wrote a book called Scarcity, and his name is L.R. Shafir, and I did a podcast with him. And he studies like how humans behave when they don't have enough food in their stomach. Like most economists wrote their treatises from a full stomach. Adam Smith, the father of capitalism, was also living with his mother when he wrote The Moral Sentiments of Man and the Wealth of Nations. Okay,
Whoa.
so he was what you don't hear is as this funny.
So he was like one of those
economist.
internet marketing gurus that has like Ferraris that he rented
Yes.
in his mom's driveway.
Well, you know, this woman, I was talking about the free market, and I'm a free market guy, and you know, I'm a capitalist, and she said that's great, and I've been inundated in the sort of the extreme Milton Friedman, F.A. Hayek kind of school of economics, but she was like, she wrote a thing called Donut Economics, and she's out of Oxford, and Kate Rayburn, and she said, well, you know what they don't tell you is when Adam Smith was writing The Wealth of Nations, the fucking handbook for all capitalists and free market guys like yourself, is that his mother was like, Adam, dinner's almost ready, and I folded your laundry. You know, what's that worth? What the fuck is that worth, dude? You know what I mean? So you got to take those things into account.
It's so funny.
My perspective on capitalism, I think, has always come from a full belly. Never been hungry. I was a wrestler, guys. I did have to suck a lot of weight. But the point is, never been hungry. Never had
Right.
to worry about where my next meal was coming from. Certainly never had to worry about a roof over my head. That's a big difference between even a guy like me and you.
Yeah.
Like this is your perspective is going to be different. It's going to be dull.
Has to be. There's a level of compassion, I think, that as a civilization we haven't hit. We haven't hit the right number. We're in this number where we don't give a fuck about each other enough. And I think that one of the ways that could be solved is I've been thinking a lot about universal basic income. That if that was a possibility where you could give everybody just a small amount of money, like $12,000 a year, which is like $1,000 a month, it's basically enough to get by, but you wouldn't have to think about that then. You wouldn't have to think about that aspect. Like you would always have food. Like if we could make sure that everybody always had food and everybody always had a place to sleep, what would that cost? What would it cost to eradicate homelessness to a point where if you were homeless, it was a total voluntary situation. Either you're just a nomad who likes camping or you're mentally ill and you just need to sleep in a box because you think that's the only way that the aliens can't get you.
Right.
There's those people like
Sure.
Skid Row. It's filled with those people, right?
yeah.
Like what percentage of our cities have homeless people in them? Like, is it 3% of the city's homeless? 1% of the city's
In the
homeless?
warmer climates, it's higher.
Right. How much of an impact would it be if you could just bring that down to zero? I mean, wouldn't that be just great for the way people feel about other people?
Well, there are societies that do that.
Right.
Singapore and certain Scandinavian
This is
societies.
I'm very hippie, this podcast. This is strong weed.
Well, no, I mean, but you're asking a really good question because they have done these experiments.
20 billion. That's it?
They
U.S. could end homelessness, sorry, with money used to buy Christmas decorations. It would cost about $20 billion for the government to effectively eliminate homelessness in the United States, a housing and urban development official told the New York Times Monday, December 11, 2012. So
that's
for
the wrong
what we
question.
spend, it's kind of the wrong question because like give a man a fish or feed a man
Yeah.
and teach a man to fish, right?
Yeah, it's a really tricky stat.
It is
you have to be careful with
it's
that.
a weird question, but it's also one that no one's addressing. It's like you look at people who are homeless, you go, oh, you fucking bum, get your shit together. Oh, you lazy fuck, or oh, you crazy person. Oh, he must be a junkie. You know?
Yeah, but so can I tell you? So my friend works with homeless youth, and pretty extensively has done it for 20 years. And actually, what he'll tell you, and he's a very compassionate person, but he'll tell you that the system in this city of Los Angeles, there are a lot of resources for people on the street. from places to get a computer, places to sleep, places to take a shower. And what happens is there are a lot of people that get this network. They figure out where to go. And one of the things that they are talking about in this community and trying to get kids and homeless people off the street, it's one thing. There are a lot. It's a complicated issue, but what has been said, and it was shocking to me, was they were like, problem is the system is so easy to game. It's so easy you can live on the street and live. You can, and when you're a youth, you can actually, if you understand how to work the system, there are so many resources that a lot of times it doesn't lend itself to really needing to get out of a situation, right?
Yeah, but how many of these kids are planning this out like this with a game in the system?
A lot of them.
Really?
Because you're a human being, so you figure out where you can get your breakfast, where you can get your shower, where you can get your computer, where you can get your hangout, where you can get all these things.
And you think somehow that's hurting them?
Look, I'm not saying I'm not saying we shouldn't have these resources.
Right.
I thought it was fascinating that a lot of the people that are really in the front lines and involved in this are saying that the ironic and frustrating thing sometimes can be that it does create not complacency, but certainly there are way more resources than you think. There are people that have worked very hard to address this problem, and people do it when they know where to go. They do know where to get food. They do know where to get a shower. They do know where to do all these things, so they can live on the street.
But there's many levels to this, right?
Yeah,
First of all, one of the big levels, the inescapable, is mental illness.
Yes.
Those people, there's a lot of people that are wandering around the street that really should probably be in some sort of an institution.
Yes.
Getting health care.
Yes.
And medicated.
Yes.
But how do you force someone to do that? And is that the issue, or is it a funding issue? You know, that was an issue apparently when Reagan was in office. They lowered the standard of what's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and they just let a bunch of dudes just wander through the streets.
That actually wasn't. It was a little bit more complicated than that.
Sure.
It was that the state doesn't have a right to keep you against your will if you don't want to be, right? So there had to be very specific criteria for that. So this whole thing with gun control, like it's a mental health issue. Well, if you talk to the psychiatrist, they'll be like, look, dude, the criteria for saying and getting somebody essentially classified as a danger to society and like a real threat is very steep. It's hard to do.
Yeah.
You can't do that because somebody talks to themselves. You can't do it because they're hearing voices.
Well, the FBI went to visit that kid 2 years ago.
Right.
The kid who shot up the school in Florida, and they decided he wasn't a threat. But he might not have been a threat 2 years ago.
Right.
Like people saying, oh, they visited him 2 years ago, they're incompetent. No, he might be a different person now. You have to realize that people get way worse. Mm-hmm. Like we've all known people that we knew at one point in time in our life, and then you don't see them for 6 years, and then you see them and you're like, whoa. Well, that's because people evolve, and sometimes they evolve, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they recede. Sometimes it gets ugly. Sometimes they go crazy.
Weren't you talking about how, because 20% of boys in this fucking country are diagnosed with ADHD?
Yes,
20%?
Misdiagnosed.
Of course, because you have a doctor who spends 10 minutes with you who's not an expert on ADHD. Could be 1,000 other things. Could just be a boy.
It was on Rhonda Patrick posted up the study.
Yeah. And then we're drugging them.
ADHD was something wasn't that the one that was created? See if Google this too, sorry. ADHD was the one that was created by the advertising agency.
What a surprise. No way.
There's been several conditions that were literally invented by advertising agencies in order to promote a cure.
So it's attention deficit
hyperactive disorder. Yeah. Look, I don't know how much of that is a real disease. Maybe some of it is. Maybe I'm obviously not an expert. Maybe some of it is a kid whose brain works different. All right. Let me tell you something, man. My dog might have ADHD or whatever the fuck it is. I go to see him and he goes crazy. He's out of his fucking mind because he thinks we're going running. He's running around in circles. He's hopping up and down. He bolts back and forth into the backyard. He's like a maniac. Like I can't control him. You know what the solution for that is? I take him running.
Right.
I don't lock him in a room and then drug him.
You know when
That's what you're doing with little kids.
You know when I was really focused? You know when I wasn't focused? Algebra. You know when I was really focused? If somebody started talking about fighting and how to throw a right hand.
Just think about what I'm saying with my dog. I mean, there's really something to that. Like that dog wanted to go run. And if I forced him to sit into a room, he would go crazy. Mm-hmm. He would bark and he wouldn't want to do that. Mm-hmm. That's how kids are.
Exactly.
It's the same goddamn thing. There it is.
Yeah,
the drugging of the American boy. But what was the tweet, Jamie? Is this an Esquire article? What did the tweet say? 1 in 5 boys will be diagnosed with ADHD by the time they make it to high school. To date, only one significant study has looked at ADHD misdiagnosis and found 20 to 25% of boys were misdiagnosed. And this was before ADHD was as common as it is now. So they're saying it's a real issue. I know quite a few people that are drugging their kids.
I think it's outrageous.
My next door neighbor, they put their fucking kid on Ritalin. There was nothing wrong with this kid. I talk to that kid all the time.
And it's fucked up. It does
the
some
kid
bad
just had
things to
too
him.
much energy. The kid just had too much energy, and they didn't want to deal with it, and they weren't paying attention to him. They worked all day, and then the kid's bouncing off the walls, and no one wants to take care of the kid, and so they put him on Ritalin.
Awful.
Dude, it's happening everywhere. It's happening all across
It has very
America.
bad side effects, some of these drugs.
Look at this. 6.4 million children between the ages of 4 and 17 have been diagnosed with ADHD. By high school, nearly 20% of all boys will have been diagnosed with ADHD, a 37% increase since 2003.
Look, my son is a classic example of a kid who doesn't like to sit still and roughhouses.
Google
He's
the
a boy.
origin of ADHD. See if
Schools have no time for it.
Of course.
They have no time for boy energy.
No, and
you're condemned because it's aggressive, and
you're
my
asking a
son's
boy to not be a boy.
he's being told that his hands are hot lava and he can't use his hands. That's healthy.
Oh my God! What kind of liberal school are you taking your fucking
Public
kid
school.
to?
Public school. That's what happens.
That's awful.
This is what we're dealing with.
Yeah, 1900 ADHD was first mentioned in 1902. British pediatrician, so it must be a wrong one, a different one, described an abnormal defect of moral control in children. He found that some affected children could not control behavior the way a typical child would, but they were still intelligent. Maybe it was restless leg syndrome. Was that it?
Didn't you tell
was that
me?
it?
I feel like that one might have been, but I don't know.
Damn it! Who was the? Oh, sorry. Who was the guest? Do you remember the guest? It was a woman who was telling us all about this. Some medical expert. Was it Kelly Brogan? It might have been. Might have been Kelly Brogan. Dr. Kelly Brogan.
But didn't you say, aren't there studies about school shooters, and a lot of them were on SSRIs and stuff?
Yes. Mass shooters. Not just school shooters, but like
all on
people
some
shoot
kind
up.
of a
Yeah.
drug.
Even the Vegas guy. The Vegas guy was on anti-anxiety medication.
Wow.
Yeah, that stuff, and that's also Chris Cornell was on anti-anxiety medication. There's a lot of people who are on psych drugs who lose their fucking minds because psych drugs are not universal, right? Like, there's no thing. Like, here's a perfect example. Say if you have, there's a solution that makes alcohol 91 octane, right? And you add something to that. You can add some additives and it'll spike it up, and you could try to find the right mixture. But that's just fucking gasoline.
Right.
You're throwing things in there, you're trying to mix it up. You don't know exactly what the right thing is. That's how they're doing your brain.
Correct.
When they're giving you these things.
Yeah.
That's why they say try this one. There's not like, okay,
It's not an exact
you
science.
have 1 cup of flour, you need 2 eggs.
Yeah.
And 1 tablespoon of sugar. No.
No.
There's no specific recipe. And what the fuck does feel good mean?
The other thing that they're not taking into account is that, you might be depressed for a good reason.
Yeah.
In other words, if you made me do a job I hated,
Yeah.
and I wasn't allowed to work out, or I didn't know how to eat, or 1,000 things that make me feel good, because I have to self-regulate.
Yes.
I'm 51, and I still have to self-regulate because otherwise, I'll go crazy. If I didn't know how to do those things, I would probably be depressed. Now you're going to give me drugs. Well, that's not going to help me.
Well, here's what I
because
think,
what I'm
man.
doing, my behavior is what it is.
For sure. But here's what I think. You got to recognize that kid, your son, who has that energy, that's a gift. And what you're doing is you're making him squander that gift by sitting him down in a fucking chair and he wants to go crazy. That kid is supposed to be like my dog, running around all day, okay? My dog is a year old. That's 7. He's a 7-year-old dog, basically, in dog years. And he's like a 7-year-old kid. He's running around. He's going fucking crazy, but that's because he wants to run.
Exactly.
But once he runs,
He's
that
fine.
Dog is the best.
Yes.
And your kid will be too. If your kid was involved in something where they emphasized physical movement and then taught things in between workouts, taught things in between they play a game outside, play a little dodgeball, play a little soccer, play a little basketball. Then after you wear yourself out a little, come sit down. We're going to teach you about math. Teach them about math, and then you're going to show them this is leverage. We're all going to pick things up. You think you can pick it up? Like let them now pick it up with leverage. Oh, you see, you understand? You could teach kids kids in a very physical way instead of forcing them to sit down. Who the fuck wants to sit in that hard-ass chair where you feel other people's gum on the top of your leg? You know, it sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks. You're
So
sitting
true.
there waiting for the fucking class to be over, stuck in
Let
some
them get their
room.
energies out. Let them move around. Did I ever tell you that my acting teacher who looked at me one time, this is the greatest, and he goes, I'd done a scene, he goes, you know what we got it with you? Got a little self-esteem problem. You think of yourself as a second banana. And I was like, oh, what? He goes, yeah, you got to start believing in yourself more. You got to
Sounds like
start
an
thinking of
acting
yourself.
coach was trying to
he
fuck
goes,
you.
He goes, you got to start thinking of yourself as a first banana.
Did he say this when he was in his underwear?
He did. I was wearing
about to pull
wearing
his
black
junk
lace
out.
on. He goes, put these black lace undies on. There you go, and I'm gonna pierce your nipples. Now listen, what's that? Why do you smell like cologne?
leopard seal.
This is weird. So he says that to me, and I'm a young actor, and I'm fucked up over it. I'm like, I got to get better. I got to get higher self-esteem. So I say to my buddies, kind of a group of guys, one of my buddies older and wiser, and I said, man, I was told I have low self-esteem, you know? And I heard a voice in the back over there goes, thank God. And I go, huh? And they go, you really think you'd be this funny if you fucking liked yourself, bro? And you think you'd be a fucking actor if you liked yourself? Go fuck yourself. That guy's an asshole. Keep hating yourself. It's the best part of you. And
Maybe
I
that's
went,
how that guy tanks men.
fuck. I know. I was like, you're right. I like that.
Yeah.
The whole point, the whole thing that drives me is the fact that I've never been satisfied with myself. And I'm never going to lose that. If you make me really happy with myself, I'm not so sure it's a good thing.
You know what you got to figure out how to do, I think, not you, but I think humans, to somehow or another disconnect you from the result. If you could figure out a way to disconnect you from the result, you could look at it more objectively. You're going to feel the sting of failure. It's a fact. But you have to recognize what that is and intellectualize it. You got to put it in this little box. Okay, this is good because now I'm going to be fucking pumped up to improve. I'm going to recognize the urgency in failure because it's so extremely uncomfortable. But that's not me. What me is the person who's doing this, and I'm eventually going to be a finished product. I'm going to figure this out.
That's
But right now, that little thing that happened that sucks, like, okay, don't freak out. You everybody fucks up. Maybe you fucked up this way, but you didn't run into someone's car. Maybe you did run into someone's car, but you didn't do this. Everybody's got their own little fuck
Failure
up.
is a huge part of
It's a
success.
giant part of being a human. You got to understand the consequences of doing something incorrectly.
Yeah.
And especially the humiliation feeling of being like put in your place. Like you might think you're good at something and then you fail at it. You go, oh my God. Like I had this elevated sense of how good I was at this thing. Now I have to look at it more objectively and I have to get to that place where I thought I was. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just people don't want to work.
Well, I had Andy Galpin. Have you had Andy Galpin?
He's great.
Very smart guy.
Brilliant guy.
I said, what's best for recovery? And he goes, why do you want to recover? I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, why don't you let your body adapt and figure it out? Just eat some food, see how it feels, but maybe suffer a little bit and see what that does because your body might have to compensate and get stronger as a result.
Sure.
It's kind of an interesting way of looking at it. I was like, well,
I think there's definitely something to that. I mean, I think that's why people push. Right? That's what pushing is. It's forcing adaptation. Your body's going, oh my God, this asshole wants to deadlift now.
Right.
Okay, I've got to adapt now. That's also what the sauna is. Your body's trying to adapt. Okay, this asshole wants to live at 170 degrees. I have to figure out how to keep everything from shutting down. Let's mass produce these heat shock proteins and try to figure out, how
It's
to
also
get
what-
norepinephrine.
it's also what like being honest with somebody is, right? So like it's also kind of like sitting and hearing things you don't want to hear about yourself, maybe
Sure,
shortcomings, right?
sure,
So when
yeah.
somebody says something to you, like you're not taking yourself, you're not working hard enough, or you're not working correctly, or you did this wrong, or your ideas are a bit bankrupt. Let me tell you why.
Yeah.
That shit is not fun
At all.
to hear.
No.
But it's exactly like working out. If you could just sit and listen and take it in, not argue it, listen, take it in, feel bad for a while, I promise you, that's probably the best way to change. Listening and hearing it, because it'll bother you, let it bother you, and then let that spurn you to action. But
Yeah.
if you want to shout Christina Summers down, or you want to get into your safe space and not hear those things because they hurt you, this is why they're
Yeah, but that's
categorizing.
only part of the problem. The real problem is a control power problem. There's control and power problems because these are 18-year-old kids and they've just gotten away from home for the first time and they want to exercise their power. They want to
Yeah.
change the world and they're fucking babies.
Yeah,
they
that's
have
true.
half-baked brains
They're young.
and they want to yell shit out and they think that they're doing the right thing. They really do. And they were yelling outside, you can't have won't have fascists in our school. Did you see Jordan Peterson was doing a speech and they were literally at the windows. They climbed the walls and got to the windows and were banging on the windows from the outside while the speech went on.
Wow.
Dude, it's disturbing.
Yeah.
And everyone inside is super calm, and there's people that keep an eye on the window because you hear it cracking. Like they're just smashing this fucking window, just banging up against it the entire time he's talking. You just hear bang, 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 bang. And they're yelling shit outside about fascism or it's like they don't even know what the fuck that means.
No, they don't.
Like they literally are just saying it for anybody who disagrees with them.
Yeah.
When a real fascist comes along, they're going to be so duped.
Well, no, they'll be shot. They'll be lined up against the wall and shot. That's what fascists do, real fascists.
But they seem to think that disagreeing with people who are out of their fucking mind,
they don't have any confidence.
Equates fascism.
They have no confidence, right? So if
Why
you're
do you say
having
that?
well, because if you're having an argument with somebody and you end up hitting them because they're saying things you don't like, it means you don't have the ideas to compete with their ideas. You
well,
don't have
I don't
a
think it's
rebuttal.
that, dude. I think they're just young and they don't understand what the fuck they're doing. They're enjoying this ability to scream out.
It's like a
they're
tantrum.
practicing.
Yeah.
They've got way too much power. They're children.
Yeah.
They're essentially children.
Yeah.
They could go to war, some of them, and but that's not right anyway. They probably shouldn't be able to. It should probably be like 21 before you make that decision.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing's fucking crazy. It's crazy that they don't have enough security to keep the fucking kids from banging on the windows.
Right.
Like, what kind of nonsense facility do you run? You just didn't see that coming? You guys, do you have the internet? Do you guys have the internet?
It's kind of
see
new
what's
to
going on?
It's kind of new though. American culture
No,
is always.
It's been a few years.
No, I'm saying
Few years they've been
American
doing that,
culture has
though.
always given their kids recently too. I mean, Jonathan Haidt talks about this helicopter parenting and sort of the idea that your kid has his own autonomy and it's very important. I've seen all the new science on this. I mean,
For sure,
your
yeah,
kid
there's
is
definitely
your
something
kid
there.
has to is allowed to exercise their point of view and have a tantrum, and then you have to show them that there are consequences for that.
Yeah.
You know that's a new way of looking at, a lot of cultures are like, hey, if you fucking talk to me like that again, I'm gonna hit you in the fucking, I'm gonna take this riding crop and whack your fucking legs or whatever it might be. So I don't know. I mean,
We've got it real soft right now. It's a
Yeah.
real easy time to be alive. And I think ultimately the ship's going to balance out. I really do. And I think ultimately a lot of these kids that are super radical now will probably stabilize as they get older and more experienced and be more embarrassed with some of the things they've done especially to disrupt free speech. They should really be embarrassed by that because it's so foolish. Like all you have to do is formulate a really good argument to what that idea is, and then you play those ideas out in the court of public opinion. You do it in some sort of a way where you have one person representing one side, one person representing the other side, and you beat that idea with better ideas. And that's what you're supposed to do. That's the whole exercise.
That's right.
And these people that oppose your ideas, you should use that to challenge you to improve your ideas, to make your ideas undeniable. So that when you present that argument, you've looked at it from both sides. There's far too many people, including these people that are interrupting people, that are only looking at an argument from the point of view that they would like to be correct.
Yeah.
And they're only looking at it like she's a
Confirmation
fascist,
bias.
she's a Nazi. They're not looking at her, hey, maybe that's just a lady. And maybe she's a nice lady, and maybe she's got some points, and maybe I agree with her, and maybe I don't. But you got to let her talk.
Yeah.
This is all nonsense. It's holding signs up and trying to get attention. This is not the time for that.
it doesn't persuade anybody over to your side. I'll tell you that much.
They're not even trying to do that.
No.
They're just trying to recruit the troops. And then also they're trying to send out a flag that they care, and they're out here doing the right goddamn thing.
Yeah.
Using my voice.
Yeah.
I'm out here using my voice.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you're being a little kid that's interrupting
Well,
another
they're being
person's
tribal. They're in
speech.
their tribe, and it's way easier to be against something than to define what they're for. If you ever ask them what they're for, like I had this conversation
Equality,
with this woman.
bro.
What's that?
Equality
Well,
of everything.
they don't know what that
including
means.
comedians. I want an equal number.
Yeah,
Do you see what happened with Bert?
yeah.
Someone wants an equal
Some
number
woman-
of comedians, men and women.
It's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. Are you funny enough to be on the stage? Okay, then I don't give a fuck what you look like. I don't care if you're.
Nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah.
Remember
Fuck
when
you.
Jerry Seinfeld got in trouble because they were like, "Why is comedian cars having coffee all white guys?"
Well, I don't know, but there are a lot of funny white guys, so fuck off. A lot of funny black guys too.
Well, that's what Jerry Seinfeld said. He said essentially, I don't care what color they are. I speak the language of comedy. I care if they're funny.
Exactly.
And they were like, that sounds racist.
They're
like,
so dumb.
They're
so
like,
dumb.
I'm so sorry, but that sounds racist.
And you're dumb. And you're fucking dumb.
What would you say if you were there and that lady said that? Because there was a woman, two guys are sitting, a guy and a girl are sitting there talking, and they played the Jerry Seinfeld clip. And then the woman, who was African-American, was like, I'm sorry, but that's racist. And I was sitting at home watching.
And I take Kevin Hart's the biggest comic in the world, and most of his audiences, most of his ticket payers are white. He's undeniable. Most of the people that go to his movies are white, and he's earned it because he's fucking hilarious.
Right, but that doesn't have anything to do with what she's saying is that he's racist because he's not having black people on his show.
I don't know how to argue with that.
He's saying, no, I don't even care. I just care, are they funny? I don't care. Like, diversity doesn't mean anything to me. I don't care. And she's like, that's so racist. But I feel like when you say something's racist today, you don't have to back it up anymore.
I agree.
People just back off, especially if you're saying a white person's racist. If you say a white person's racist, everybody pulls out the microphone, the magnifying glass. Wait a minute. What have we got here? We're looking at a racist.
But they'll also say this:
look at that
you're
fucking
racist
thing like
and you
it's a
don't even
cubic
know
zirconia.
it. Yeah,
Oh,
you're
there's a
racist
lot
and
of
you don't
that.
know it. You don't even know it. Like you're the white supremacy's everywhere. And
Well, they teach that at schools now.
Yes, I know.
They teach that also at some jobs.
That's
at
why
some
you have
jobs
to go to you have to go to bias training.
Yeah, bias training.
Anti-bias
bias
training.
What do they call it?
I think it's anti-bias
subconscious.
training. Yeah.
Subconscious bias training. Like you might
great.
even realize you're racist and you are racist. How many black guys have gotten laid because of all this though?
Hopefully a lot.
A lot of hippie white chicks just want to show they're not racist.
I love it.
Just get
I love it.
dick down.
I mean, it's just it's. And I'm in the corner jerking off
What?
and crying.
No. It's just weird, man. It's just I've never seen us so divided, and part of it has to do with Trump for sure. There's like this reaction, like that they feel like really obligated to act. People feel obligated to act and try to make things change, which I think is ultimately good. All this thing, all of what's going on right now does not concern me nearly as much as it does a lot of other people. Because I feel like people are already reacting to it and already going, what in the fuck? You know, and the ship is already starting to right itself.
Well, the Oscars was the lowest rated, I think, in the history of the Oscars.
I
right?
heard that, but it's also 26 million people watched. That's a lot of fucking people. That's a lot. Don't shit on someone who got 26 million people.
No, but I think people
like,
were afraid to be. People get very kind of like, whoa, we're getting political here. And
that's
it's
true,
radical.
but when they looked at the numbers were, they were comparing it to like 2013.
Yeah.
They were down 5 million from 2013, I think it was. Guess what wasn't around 2013? Netflix!
True.
There's a lot more shit to watch.
True.
What's it down from last year? There's definitely people that are bored with Hollywood, though. Like, enough.
Well, Hollywood's overreach. I think Hollywood tends to be. What bothers me about Hollywood is their virtue signaling. Like they're going to set an example. You fucking guys, like you want to be liked, okay? And you're as fickle as it gets. They were the same people that were standing up and clapping for Roman Polanski.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, man.
Well, some of them were.
Yeah.
Some of them were really saying some ridiculous shit.
I mean,
like
come on, guys.
It's a long time ago. And
He drugged and sodomized a 13-year-old.
I think he fucked
like,
more than one, too.
Yeah. So guess what?
Yeah.
I can't have that guy. You're not getting. They wanted to sign a petition and bring him back in the country. I can't forgive that.
No.
Stay in France.
Well, they want to bring him back to the country to arrest him, and they're really trying hard to do that. Yeah. And there's people that resist that. I think he's an amazing artist, and artists are just different.
Just be consistent, though.
You
be
can't,
consistent.
That's where I draw the line. You can't drug kids and fuck them in the ass.
I mean, Asia Argento, who was one of the people that came out against Harvey Weinstein, she had been raped by him apparently, and then she had a sexual relationship for 10 years afterwards. Which, by the way, people are like I actually forgive that because people go back to the trauma, right? They want to relive it on their own terms. Mm-hmm. But she signed the petition for Roman Polanski to be freed when he was put under arrest in, I believe it was Switzerland. Now, that's not consistent. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. But if that guy is just as bad as, you can see the petition online.
What was her perspective?
She was somebody who thought Roman Polanski should not be prosecuted for something that happened a long time ago. She signed that petition. I would never sign that petition. So there's a lot of disconnect. So I have a big problem with that sort of disconnect. That's a problem. I don't know this woman. I don't know her. I believe her. I believe what she says about Harvey Weinstein. And again, people are like, well, she went back to the scene of the crime. That's very common, but don't sign a petition and then now be this leading voice in this whole, anti-harassment. So I think it's very inconsistent. I think you have to at least answer to that.
Did she comment on why she signed it?
I think there was a mea culpa there, but it's very inconsistent in it, and there's a lot of that out there. There's a lot of that out there.
We should make sure that she definitely did that.
You'll see it.
Just see if you can Google that, young Jamie.
You'll see
It
it.
feels like something that you have to.
I looked it up. I actually looked it up.
Yeah.
I wanted to see who had signed that petition. I came across her name, and I was like, whoa, that doesn't make any sense to me. It just doesn't make any sense, man. I don't get it.
I don't know enough about what happened. I know that he drugged and sodomized some young
13-year-old.
girl.
She was 13.
But
And her mom dropped her off, I believe. And it was in a
why was
hot
she
tub.
there?
It was the 70s, man.
People were just afraid
Apparently
of the
she looked
kids.
every bit of 20, all that shit that you hear.
Man.
But I believe he knew she was 13, and then he knew he was going to go away to jail, and he left the country.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And then apparently there's another woman that he had done that to. So.
Yeah. Imagine being on the scene back then. How weird that must have been. Like there had been, like, think about Roman Polanski making movies in, like, what, the 1970s, right?
Yeah. I mean, God, Chinatown.
It's
An
only
amazing
amazing.
director.
But they'd only been making movies for like a few decades. It was a real new thing.
She signed the petition, but I found a tweet she put out a couple months ago where she said she regretted doing it.
I already regretted the signing the petition years ago.
She said,
Thought it was a mistake.
Roman Polanski's
No,
a filmmaker whose work I admire greatly, but if I ever see him, I'll spit in his face if he's lucky.
Yeah, but you signed the petition.
I already regretted signing the petition years ago. Already felt it was a mistake. No excuses. It was stupid, but this indicates a pattern of behavior that, if true, and I believe it to be true, is beyond unforgivable. Well, I think you got a good point, though, about she made a mistake, and there is something that happens to people that have been violated. Sometimes they blame themselves.
That's what I said.
Sometimes,
I forgive that.
And there could be a little of that in her decision-making process, too.
I can't
There could be a little bit of wanting to be in with Hollywood,
That's not ethically or morally consistent.
Well, I know,
though.
and she fucked up, and she realized she fucked up.
But you're also coming after people now.
Mm-hmm.
If we're gonna, and a lot of these people, deserve to be come after. But we have to be consistent here.
Right, but isn't she being consistent by just saying that she fucked up and she realized that she fucked up?
Well, there are a lot of people that are saying that once they get caught.
Well, that petition doesn't mean jack shit. They ain't letting them.
Doesn't matter. You signed it, and it was
Yes.
I don't know anybody that would sign that. Like, I would never sign that petition.
Right.
That's all I'm trying to say. Be consistent.
If the guy came to America and got arrested and went through the trial and then got convicted, how much time would you do?
I don't know.
I mean, what's interesting is, like, would it be better karmically to go to jail for what he did, come back, go to jail, and then everyone would always know when you got out that you were convicted and you were punished for child molestation? Like, you did it and they got you. Everyone would know. Whereas now, he's living in France and he has to deal with it floating over his head. Everyone who meets me knows that I drugged and raped a kid. Everywhere I go, everyone knows I drugged and raped a kid. And it just keeps playing out in his head all day long.
That public shaming is powerful shit.
Well, that's the highest level.
Yes.
This is drugging and raping a kid.
I'm a forgiving guy.
Can't forgive that one.
I can't. Like, I'm a forgiving dude, man. I don't stay mad, and I think it's good to be forgiving about things. There are certain things that, to me, and he's a great filmmaker and a great artist. For me, that kind of stuff, it's very difficult, man.
Yeah.
It's just very difficult. I had an argument with a bunch of older actors about this, and they were all saying it was a long time ago. She looked up, I was like, if it was your daughter, and she was 13, how would you feel? You just got to keep going back to that.
Well, especially if you actually have a daughter. If you actually have a daughter, you're not conceptualizing that. You've got it actually locked into your brain. Yeah. You're actually thinking about your daughter, and it becomes a completely different thing. I remember thinking when I was young, if someone did that to my daughter, but that was like before I had a kid. It was like that was just a weird concept. Didn't seem real. But now you think about this 13-year-old girl, and you're like, whoa.
But what a court would do, and what a trial would do, is you might hear something like, I don't know, but you might hear, I don't know, she said she was 20. When we talk about drugging, hold on, she smoked a little weed that guy gave her over there.
Right.
Let's be careful, right? And then you start hearing all the extenuating circumstances, and maybe you would go, you got to do the time, but at least I get how that happened because you thought it was something different, right? What was your intention? What did you see? But we don't know that. So what happens is we start, and we're doing this too, and I'm doing it. I don't know all the details of the case. So, and all I'm saying is that he drugged and sodomized a 13-year-old girl.
Do you think
when
it's
you hear
possible that everyone was drugged, him included?
Well, this is what I'm saying. So we all have to be careful, and I have to too, because I'm kind of breaking my own rule here. I'm drawing these very strong, hard and fast. Like there's no context in what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
There's no nuance in what I'm saying. There's no context.
Right.
And you got to be careful because everything is nuance and context, in a way. Otherwise you're taking me at just the words I'm saying. So
what I'm seeing from this is like she's upset and you're upset. Like she's upset she signed it and you're upset she signed it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean nearly as much to me. Like people making a mistake, like her making that mistake, doesn't mean much to me. It's just a mistake. It doesn't.
I forgive it. I'm not saying.
But here's the thing: there's no consequences. No one got hurt because of that mistake. You know what I'm saying? Like it was a mistake she fucked up, but it didn't ultimately hurt anyone. Like it doesn't. I don't like the fact that someone would at least temporarily have that thought in their mind, like that guy should be free. Like leave him alone. What's bygones be bygones.
I'm actually talking about something different.
What are you talking about?
So I'm talking about the idea that
Asia Argento?
Hollywood tends to do. I was just using her as an example.
Okay.
Hollywood tends to do that which is popular, that which is going to make them liked, rather than something that's morally or ethically consistent.
Sure.
That's what I mean, right?
Well, we've talked about this before, that it all comes down to the whole process of being chosen to do things.
Yeah.
Whether being chosen to direct or chosen to act or chosen. Everybody's constantly working to be chosen. You're all trying to audition for things or trying to angle to get a certain role. It's a constant process of like me. And these are people that go into this job with this yearning desire to be loved.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, they're playing this weird political game. I mean, acting is all political. It doesn't make any sense that every other occupation, except maybe tech's probably like mostly liberal, but Hollywood's almost exclusively liberal. And if you step out of those lines, nobody wants to work with you anymore.
Well, Hollywood on the surface is liberal, but actually nobody who's conservative or whatever will speak out.
Right, like Tim Allen lost his show.
Yeah.
Because he's conservative.
Yeah.
He's an old white guy. What do you expect?
Yeah.
Old white guys?
Yeah, that's
They play golf.
Probably a very real thing nowadays.
Start hanging out with Dennis Miller.
Yeah, Dennis Miller, same thing.
Yeah. He went fucking straight Republican.
James Woods is crazy.
Yeah. James Woods is arguing with people on Twitter. Like, James, you're 70 years old.
Crazy.
How many days you got left? How many moments in your life do you really have left? Do you have 1,000? Like, what are you going to do? You're going to waste 400 of them on Twitter?
Yeah.
That's not wise. That's not a wise thing.
Well, he said he was blackballed for his conservative views.
Was he really?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know, man. I don't want to be. Again, I don't want to be. I don't know if I'm being helpful. Right.
How so?
Well, so you call out certain people or you talk about the inconsistencies. Most people are doing the best they can at trying to make the world a better place, right? So,
Are they? I think most people are just like rolling downhill in a hamster wheel.
You think so?
Trying to figure out how to stop this fucking thing. Yeah, most people are just on full-on momentum. Most people are definitely not thinking about how to make the world a better place. Occasionally people think of that. What they try to think is, how do I get by, number one, and then how do I get better? How do I get ahead, number two? Those are the things they think of. And occasionally, what's going on? What's happening over there?
Yeah.
Fucking Trump. And then they go back to work.
Yeah.
That's
all you can do sometimes.
Yeah, most people. That's most people.
It's
but
really
a guy
hard
like
to make a
James
difference.
Woods, it's like, Jesus, James, I get it, but you're not changing hearts and minds on Twitter.
Well,
Says funny shit though sometimes.
I was going to say, like,
funny guy.
The biggest thing is, like, are you? It's really hard to persuade anybody. It's fucking basically almost. Like, I was thinking about the times I've changed my mind. Hard to change my mind.
I never change it in an argument. I change it.
Yeah, right.
I change it in a conversation. I don't mind changing my mind. I think that's important too.
Yeah.
And I've changed my mind before, and people got mad at me. Bro, you fucking changed your mind. Like, yeah, I changed my mind. I learned some new stuff, and I went, oh, okay, I can't defend this old idea, and I'm not an idea. It's stupid.
Dude, the first what's the first rule in being a scientist? Doubt, ignorance. You don't know anything, and then you make sure that you're responsive to the evidence, and then even if you build up a whole reputation on your conclusion, you have to be willing to change your conclusion based upon new evidence.
Yeah,
you
not only
have
that.
to be responsible.
What are you, a finished product?
Yeah, exactly.
You're a finished product? Oh, it's amazing.
You're a verb.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely smarter than I was 3 months ago.
Different person too.
Yeah.
How about the difference in you when you were 28 and now?
It's totally
I was a different
human.
person.
Yeah, totally different human. Yeah.
But that raises an interesting question too. So, okay, you're a very different person now.
But what if you did something awful then? Like
That's what I
committed
mean.
murder.
And now
like
you're...
when should they let you go?
Right, and now at 51, I'm so different than when I was 21.
Sure.
I don't remember that. I was such a moron. I was a moron at 30.
I remember feeling that awkward lack of control I had for myself, like feeling how awkward it was and wishing I had more composure. I remember like actively feeling that at 21, that it was so impulsive and so crazy, and I wished I was more composed. And I would see people that had their shit together, and I would really admire them. Like, look at that guy, all composed and shit.
Yeah.
Dressed nice, knows what to say, when not to say it. Meanwhile, I would blurt things out that I should never say.
Well, how about the way you look? Like, I was thinking about the way I looked at certain things, like women and their capabilities. When I was a young man, you know what changed me in looking at women in a different light? The UFC and having children with a woman and watching how good she was at raising kids and all the things that takes. That's a certain type of strength. And then watching women like Paige Van Zandt fight 3 rounds with a broken arm.
Yeah.
That was all something that I didn't think belonged. That was an arena I was not aware of, that kind of feminine strength or fortitude or whatever you want to call it. It causes me to look at that gender differently than I did before. So in a lot of ways, I'm a different person. And as you get older, that's what happens. You see the world differently as you are exposed to more data and exposed to more and different paradigms and examples. And I think that's a good thing.
It is a good thing. It's also, it's ridiculous. The female-male debate back and forth is ridiculous because people vary so much inside those groups that for someone to say all women do this, women are all thinking this, no, that doesn't make any sense. That's just as stupid as saying men all do this,
right.
All men do this. No, that doesn't make any sense. We're fucking human beings. There's a great number of men that do this stupid thing and a great number of women that say this annoying thing. Mm-hmm. There's a great number of people that are just looking to skate by in this life, men and women.
Yep.
There's a great number of dummies. There's a great number of really inspirational, fantastic people that also have vaginas.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them.
What a surprise.
A lot of fucking really smart ones that'll blow your mind in a conversation, and they just happen to be female. And there's a lot of them that are just happen to be male. And that male who happens to be fucking brilliant and articulate and mind-blowing has almost no fucking relation to some idiot, shithead, ditch digger, asshole.
Yeah.
Which is nothing wrong with digging ditches, folks. Just don't dig ditches
So
if you're an
politically
asshole.
correct.
I'm trying to be.
No, but it's also like one of the things I noticed is you have a lot of people from different backgrounds. You got Nigeria in this corner, you got Pakistan in that corner, you got China in that corner, you got fucking America, you got a white guy from Iowa. When they all have to get food out to a group of people in a restaurant, or they got to figure out a way to run a business together, all that shit, nobody has time for that shit. Everybody's kind of working toward a common goal.
Nobody has time if you actually have something important to do. It's when you don't have something important to do, you start looking at like weird shit. Like, I fucking hate gingers. You know, gingers are all the devil.
Damn it.
You know, you start looking at things
Can't
that
even
makes
handle
people
sun.
different.
Yeah.
You know, you start looking at the differences and getting annoyed with stupid shit.
Yep.
Yeah, I think all human beings, just like your son, have a physical requirement. There's a bond requirement that we all have with each other. There's a love requirement that we all have with each other. We have to get a certain amount of love. You got to have a certain amount of bonding and camaraderie with the people around you. And these needs should be just like they give you like a vitamin C chart. You know, USDA recommended daily allowance of vitamin C is this. Recommended daily allowance of iron is that. Like all that stuff is important for your body. I think you have an equally important requirement for your your mind.
Yes.
And for just your physical being, like not necessarily your body in terms of like nutrition, but just love and warmth, like the human touch.
You know the babies will die if you don't touch them, right?
Yeah.
It's called failure to thrive. So in hospitals, when they have babies that don't have parents, they have people that come around and hold the babies.
Jesus
If the
Christ.
baby's not held, you can feed the baby and everything. If the baby's not held, the baby will die.
Fuck.
They have to be touched by another human being. A baby has to be.
Yeah, it's like water or food.
Yeah.
There's a fucking requirement.
Yeah.
And I think that this is being violated in schools when you're teaching little kids with tons of energy. And the way they cope with that violation is give those kids medication that makes them conform. And we just accept that. And then people get on anti-anxiety medication and people get on all this medication, that medication. And how many of these medications are clearly described because your life sucks? Or prescribed, rather, because your life sucks. How many of them? Is it half?
Right.
Is it 30%? Like, what number of people actually have something wrong with their brain? And what number of people have something wrong with their brain because their life sucks?
Right.
God damn it. I hate going over the same subject over and over again because it's just so
Well, it's
drilled
hard to
into my
come up. It's
brain.
hard to come up with fucking answers because it all depends.
It's drilled
Like
into
I was
my
talking
brain.
to Andy Galpin about that. I was like, "Well, is this vitamin good for you, or is this supplement good for you, or is this?" I was showing him stuff I take, and he goes, "It depends. It just depends on your body. It depends on what are you doing with your body. What is your routine like on a daily, on a weekly basis? What kind of stresses are you putting your body on? Some things work, some things don't. There's no clear-cut, single variable answer.
It's just so fascinating that all of our bodies have different requirements because we literally developed in different parts of the world
I know.
and scooted over here in a boat
Yep.
and started fucking each other.
Yep.
And oh, look at you, allergic to cats. You know, like all these weird things
Yeah.
that stuck with us.
I do better with goat dairy and
Me too.
than I do with because I'm
Much better.
Mediterranean than I do with Holstein cow dairy.
Dude, my daughter, when she was little, she would throw up if she drank cow's milk, but she would drink goat's milk, and she'd have no problem with it at all.
Yeah.
It's weird, man. Like human dairy. Well, do you fuck with raw milk at all?
Yeah, I used to, but not anymore. I'll
scared?
fuck with raw goat milk.
Scared?
I can't do raw milk. Cow
Yeah, I would
milk.
rather get raw goat milk because, first of all, do they treat goats the way they treat cows? I figure if you're running goats, you probably like a little bit more animal friendly.
I get the best goat milk in the world from the Amish.
That sounds like
do
they would
some
have the
shit.
best shit.
It's
But would
thick
you-
and creamy and delicious.
Would you imagine? Let's go on a limb here and guess. Would you imagine there's factory farming of goats, like milking, commercial,
I don't know.
large scale milking?
I'm sure there is. Like there's certain ultra pasteurized goat milk called Myers that I get sometimes. It's really good, but it's ultra pasteurized. But I'm sure that the problem is when you talk about factory farming, here's the problem, right? So we want consistency in our food. So you want to buy eggs, and when you go to buy a carton of eggs, you know they're going to cost $1.50 or $2.50 or $3.50, whatever. You know that they're going to cost a certain amount. You don't go to the egg store and one day they're $3.50 and the next day they're $12. And the reason for that is this, that we figured out a way to create enough eggs so that there is enough of a glut so that we can keep the price at a certain level. The problem with, if you had all these family farms, okay, which I've always been a fan, as I always talk about family farms versus factory farms. Awesome, Brian. Never done a day of farming in my fucking life. Don't know anything about it, but I've done my reading. So here's Brian again with his point of view because he's read some stuff and he likes eating at Erewhon and Whole Foods. Okay, because I can afford it. So I like family. I like family
You like
farming.
the idea of family
factory
farming.
farming is bad. Okay.
Right.
The problem is that if you look at the way farming it works, is that some family farms aren't as good as other family farms for 1,000 reasons. Not as productive, not as proficient. So what would happen is that family would say, "Hey, bro, I know you're a chicken farmer too, but you're not doing it right. Let me buy your farm. I'll buy your farm for 15 times what it's worth right now. You need the money." But I'm gonna, secretly, I know I'm gonna make my money back because I know how to do it better than that guy. And then I do that. Now I go and buy a machine that's actually faster, and I go to the next farm and I say, "Hey, bro, you're not gonna compete with me on the market anyway, and you're not as good. Sell me your farm." And what happens is,
The guy's gonna go, fuck you.
not
City
really,
slicking
not
douchebag trying to buy up
because
my farms?
because you're not a city slicker. He's a farmer
The
himself.
way you're talking is city slicker.
Is that how I'm doing
I don't
it?
like your attitude.
Hey, bro.
Come
hey,
to me,
bro.
and my fucking farm.
Hey, I could give you a deal. Come over here. I know how to make eggs.
I know what you're saying. What people, the real problem with factory farm is the lack of moral standards. like when they shove these chickens into these little tiny
Sure.
boxes. And the other thing is we've adapted to the ecosystem that we operate under. And the ecosystem that we operate under, we get free food, basically.
Yeah.
And not free food,
Yeah.
but
It's
free
how you
access
feed a
to
lot
food.
of people
you pay for it.
protein.
Yeah, but it's everywhere. The
Yeah.
food is just coming in, and the eggs are everywhere.
Yeah.
So someone's got to be able to make all those eggs. So we've sort of enveloped these areas and stacked them up with people based on the idea that it's easy to get food here.
Yeah.
If it was really hard to get food here in the 1800s, it'd be 1,500 people here, right?
Yeah.
It would be like the Sonora
Sure.
Desert.
But
you
as
go
people
through the Sonora
breed-
Desert, people live there.
Yeah.
Some people live this little ranch here, ranch there. Why? Because there's no fucking food, man.
Or water.
Yeah, there's not a lot there.
Yeah.
It's a desert, right? So because of the fact that we figured out how to be able to feed all these millions and millions and millions of
Billions,
people.
yeah.
Well, in this one little spot, like LA in particular, where no one's growing shit.
Right.
Everything's shoved in there in terms of humans, and they're just pumping eggs in there left and right.
Yeah.
They've sort of populated that place based on this ridiculous idea of the access to meat. And
It's
access
not,
to eggs.
it's not a ridiculous idea. It's actually
yeah.
a reality, right?
Right, but then people come along and they see a PETA video, and then they go, hey, but you
Yeah.
still want to live here. So, well,
Yeah.
you're going to have to go vegan then. Well, guess what? If you do that, they're going to have to chop down a lot of fucking trees and start growing food everywhere.
Yeah.
They're going to have to put it everywhere. All these people are going to be vegan? All 2 million in this town and 6 million in the neighborhood town and then 20 million in LA.
It's a lot of agricultural runoff.
Yeah, it's a lot of pollution. You're going to
Yeah.
have a lot of fucking shit going to the ground. You're going to have a lot of combines chewing up rabbits and rats, ground nesting birds. Everything's going to get buzzed up. When you're gathering up all that grain, you're going to need to feed all those 2 million people that don't have access to animal protein anymore. That's
Right.
not good either.
Right?
We're fucked, is what I'm saying.
You're giving up that easy?
I gave up.
Dude, I think technology is allowing us to grow more food on less land. So
That's true. I think I'm very hopeful for that artificial meat, that meat that they're growing.
yeah, I know.
Very hopeful for that, because if we could figure out a way to make it healthy to get that kind of meat, you would still have population control problems, and I think I would never stop hunting because of that.
But it's meat without a central nervous
It's
system.
meat without a central nervous system, and we could probably, if it's done and it really works, I mean, there's a lot of ifs there, but we could probably eliminate most of the factory farming. The real problem would be like, what would you do with all those cows? What do you do with the cows now?
They would die off, and then you wouldn't have a breeding.
But you don't want them to
program.
go extinct.
You'd always have some cows because there'd be people there'd be a whole marketplace of eating meat with the central nervous system. Just watch.
Oh, there would definitely
Our
be.
meat is
People would
natural.
Like
we
it better.
we go back to there's
Yeah.
always going to be a marketplace for eating food as it quote unquote occurred naturally, which of course Holstein cows are not natural.
That's the other thing I was going to get to. The problem with letting them go, if we ever let them go, they morph. Sort of like the same way pigs morph.
Mm-hmm.
They become this thing called scrub bulls. You ever heard of scrub bulls? It's a really, it's really popular in, especially in Australia. They're wild cattle. Cattle that
Really?
have broken through fences and lived many, many generations in the wild. The males are super aggressive.
Really?
Very dangerous.
Let me
Can't
see,
get-
Jamie. Let me see. Yeah, they're dangerous as fuck.
Enormous bulls.
In Africa, they're not afraid of lions. They're afraid of water buffaloes. They say
Yeah.
climb a tree when you see a water buffalo.
Well, my friend Adam Greentree, who shot that buffalo above the flag,
Yeah.
in
Holy
the
shit, that's a scrub bull?
Northlands. That's a scrub bull. So you see how weird that thing looks?
Yeah,
it
man.
looks weird because it's probably lived in the wild for many, many, many generations.
Wow.
They're huge. Look at the size of the sack on him, dude. Look at his sack and look at his hog. Holy
Dude,
shit.
that thing's no joke, huh?
That thing is laying pipe all day, just banging all
Look
these
at
cows.
the muscle.
They're enormous wild cows, and they're very aggressive. The males in particular will fuck you up because they're not steers, right? They're bulls. When we're getting steak, you're getting steak most of the time from a steer. A steer is an animal, they cut the balls off of it when it's young. These are full-ass bulls.
Dude,
Look at the
that's a-
muscles on that
that's a
thing.
badass animal.
Look at the size of that. That thing's huge.
Jesus.
Yeah, these are big fucking wild bulls. You know, what does that weigh? 1,800 pounds or some shit?
No, man.
Fuck. So that would happen in America. You got to recognize that if people stopped having domestic cattle and they just let those cattle roam through, you would have a devastating impact on the ecosystem just like you have with wild pigs.
Right.
It would be similar. You'd have wild cows.
I think those cows would all be euthanized or they'd be eaten, and then you just
Maybe.
wouldn't. It's
But why?
breeding the cows, you know.
But you'd have to have a certain population of them that we keep alive. What? Like,
Well, you'd need them for milk.
yeah.
can milk them. You need.
What if they come up with artificial milk?
God damn it, Joe. The fuck.
You're not really supposed to drink milk, though, right? I mean, not
I don't
really.
know. Cheese is good shit.
Is it though?
I eat cheese and I drink wine. It doesn't make me feel good, and I'm never stopping. How about that?
Wine does not make me feel good until it goes in my mouth.
Well, the problem is if I was in that makeup chair.
You drinking wine?
I was puffy in the morning, and I looked at the makeup woman, and I said, why am I so puffy in the morning? And she goes, are you drinking at night? I go, every night. She goes, well, don't do that. If you have to shoot the next day, you might not want to drink 3 glasses of fucking wine because I get swollen.
Just drink it.
Yeah, but I want to look good on the Goldbergs.
Do you? Do you want to look good? Dairy reinvented, sustainable, kind, delicious. There you go. Animal-free milk. I bet that thing gives you rocket farts. Like farts that if you were at a chair with wheels on it, you could fart and it would scoot you across a carpet. I mean, how could your body want to digest that? What's that stuff made out of? Give me some ingredients, young Jamie.
That's weird.
People are weird.
Milk.
Yeah. Almond milk. That's my favorite. It's not even...
Yeah.
There's no almond titties. That's not almond milk. Does someone have a joke like that? That's someone's joke. Did I just bite someone's joke?
I don't think so. I'm always paranoid.
The whole almond milk thing is so weird. You're just soaking nuts and then getting the dirty water. Do you know what it's like? It's like when you would eat Cocoa Pops, cuckoo for Cocoa Pops, and you would have that chocolate, and there would be the chocolate at the bottom.
No, they press them, goddammit.
What are you talking about?
They take the almonds, they soak them, they sprout them,
right? But
then they press them.
Right, but that dirty water is just water that the almonds were soaking around in.
No, because they don't do it that way. I don't think. I think the way they do it is they crush the almonds after the almonds have been soaked. They take the skin off and then they crush them and then they
mix it.
They crush them and then they press them and it creates like a milky.
It's dirty water,
no,
bro.
No, sir. I don't know what kind of fucking almond factory you're talking about, bro.
It's dirty almond water. What is
Jamie?
This? Genetically engineered yeast. What is this?
This is what's in that
cellular agriculture.
What? Vegan milk. It's called Movie.
Oh my God! The term genetically. Wow. The team used genetically engineered yeast to produce 6 key proteins. Oh, you goddamn motherfucker! 6 key proteins that provide the texture and plants to harvest 8 fatty acids that contribute to the flavor. Finally, they add sugars, minerals, and water. Easy peasy. It's sugar. With this straightforward recipe, the composition can be modified to leave potentially harmful components such as cholesterol and hormones out of the equation. Okay.
Isn't lactose...
Cholesterol is, by the way, the building blocks of all cells.
Yeah. Isn't lactose a sugar?
Google that.
Lactate?
Yeah, they're putting sugar in there, man. But they said they put sugars in it because otherwise it would taste like donkey piss.
Yeah.
It's yeast, by the way. Yeast is a life form. Where do you draw the line? Like if you're a vegan and you're eating yeast, you are eating a living thing. You're even eating a life form that if you didn't eat it, it would replicate. It's not a plant. It's a life form.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're eating probiotics, like say if you're a vegan, you're eating probiotics, you're eating little tiny life forms.
Right.
That's what you're eating. When you have fermented that, you're letting animals grow on your food, and then you're eating your food and the animals. So like that's where I get my protein. Like you're eating animals. You're eating little tiny little animals.
I think 1 in 10 of you, 9 out of 10 of your cells are not human. They're bacterial.
Every cell of your body is made from it, and all of your steroid hormones are synthesized from cholesterol, including all of the sex and adrenal hormones. Well, you definitely don't want that in your body, then, do you? Mm-mm. Why would you want something that's responsible for every fucking cell in your body? Like this idea that diet is better for you is so goddamn cockamamie. They're telling you that they're putting in sugar so that it makes it palatable and taking you don't have to worry about that naughty cholesterol that's responsible for every fucking cell in your body and your hormones. We don't want that.
We can't have it.
They're not even like paying attention to science.
But it's a belief system. It's not a science.
But here's what it is, though. Here's where it gets weird. I also believe in many ways is a left-right thing. That the left believes in climate change science wholeheartedly 100%, but does not believe in gender science. No, that's all bullshit.
If you talk about the difference between male and female, just XY chromosomes.
They'll shut you down.
Yeah.
Did you see Brett Weinstein's or his wife Heather Hying?
Eric Weinstein?
No, his wife, Heather Hying. She was doing a speech with James Damore. They were talking about gender diversity, and she's just talking about the difference between males and females from a scientist point of view. She's a real biologist, right? People get up and screaming. They're shutting her down. They're walking out. They knocked over the sound system. They called her a fascist. They said he's a Nazi.
Awesome.
Dude,
You're against science.
Dude, it's amazing. It's amazing.
So dumb.
But it's this thing, this left-right thing too. It's right. It's like the left wants you to 100% buy into whatever science they accept, but also they don't buy into a lot of shit that just doesn't fit with whatever their ideology.
The left is into cultural purity. The far right's into racial purity.
Yeah, but it was the denial of science is a new thing.
Yes,
the
it is.
denial of science was just not a part of the left. The left was always
Pro-science.
supposed to be pro-science. The idea was that they were more educated, but as I looked into it, I felt it was like that's not really true.
Yeah.
But you would think that it would be more educated.
Is
because
it again? Is it left and right, or is it just? Is it? Are we talking about just people who are? I feel like when we talk about these people that are knocking over sound systems and walking out and shouting down Christina Summers, I don't know that they're right or left. I think that these are young, confused people.
Shitheads. Say it.
Shitheads.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that I really do. I think they're first of all, I don't think they're very smart. I don't think that they're
That's
dealing
absolutely
with,
true.
I think a lot of them might have some psychological problems. I think a lot of them want to belong. I think a lot of them just want to be heard, and people do clumsy shit. When people want to feel significant, they'll do even crazier shit, like put a gun in their hand and shoot somebody. So,
Sure.
and usually it's the realm of young people who don't know what to do with their energy.
There's a lot of that. And again, like we talked about before with Christina Hoff Sommers, there's just a bunch of people that are free from their parents for the first time.
That's right.
They've only been free for like 24 months.
Yeah.
And they're stretching, they dyed their hair green. You can't stop me, you fascist. And they just want to stop everything and they want attention. But ultimately, I think that this is giving us an opportunity to really fully examine ideas. And even though these people are shouting people down, all this noise is going on, like there'll be a result. There'll be some sort of an ebb and flow to all this that I feel very hopeful about. Like when I look at the ebb and flow of things, like I like it. I like what's going on. I like that there's a lot of fucking chaos and definitely some people are taking some unnecessarily bullets. And there's definitely some ideas that are getting shut down that shouldn't be. And there's definitely some overuse of the word Nazi and fascist and all this different stuff. But it seems like overwhelmingly all this crazy energy is being pushed into at least the idea that we're improving the world.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they want to improve the world.
I had a bunch of women on my podcast who were talking about like sexism in the Hollywood. And of course, I was like, I don't see it that much. I was like, I don't see it. And these women were all really intelligent. And I said, I got to be honest, man. As a white man now, I just feel like it's
hard for us.
I go. I got to watch what I say now. I got to watch how I talk. And one of the women goes, Katie goes, wow, I can't imagine what that's like, Bryan. What's it like to have to watch what you say and watch what your impact is like? I have no idea. Meanwhile, she's been dealing with that. Every woman I know has been dealing with that for fucking ever. And I guess I didn't take it. I didn't look at their perspective.
It's hard to look at other people's perspective.
Fuck yeah, it is. It's hard to like.
I was talking to Schaub in the last podcast. We were talking about Joey Diaz said some crazy shit about some chick's ass. And we were all laughing about it. And he was like, it's Joey's fucking Diaz. He's a comedian. I go, I totally understand, and I'm with you. But now, imagine if you were a regular-sized guy and you were dealing with like some 7-foot-tall ogre who was going online talking about how good your asshole smelled. And you're like, oh, Jesus. And you knew that guy wanted to fuck you. And then you knew that if he was alone with you, he could probably like hold you down and fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, that would be terrifying,
scary.
right?
Yeah.
That'd be terrifying.
Yeah.
In this case, he was talking about a female fighter who probably would fuck Joey's ass. Probably beat Joey's ass.
Right.
She's badass. Joey's
Yeah.
not in the best shape. He might clock her with a punch, though.
If she starts circling his jab, she's gonna pepper his face up a little bit.
But either way, he's being funny. That's all it is. But I was saying, imagine now, though, that you're a girl who hears someone talk about your asshole like that. And we've all done it. We've all done it.
Yeah.
you'd be like, oh no, like that's got to be a terrible feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's interesting. I'd love to be a woman for one day to see what that's like.
Would you like to get fucked? If you were a woman
Yeah.
for one day, would you
Yes.
suck a dick?
No.
Wouldn't. You're like, that's where I draw the line.
I
Just stick
gotta-
it in there. I don't even want to see where it goes.
I just want to see what it's like. Like, what does
Right.
it feel like? Like,
What
first
if a
of
guy
all,
stuck it in your ass? Like, I could have found that out as a guy.
well, first of all, what's it like to be attracted to a man? Like, I look at you, and I know women find you attractive. I don't find you attractive,
Beautiful.
right?
I dare you.
Right. But to have this
Hold
big
on, let me give you my
kind of
good side.
this, that's good. You got a strong jaw.
Smolder.
Strong jaw.
Smolder.
God, you do smolder, dude.
Smoldering, bro.
You do smolder. It's hard. It's hard for you too. I get lost in your eyes. You have a strong jaw and soft eyes.
Well, imagine wanting someone to stick something in you and shoot sperm into you.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Get some in me.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Jamie just threw up.
Yeah. Yeah, like my wife was watching Sopranos and she found Tony Soprano attractive. And I said,
Wow.
why? She goes, because he's powerful and he's just bad and he's and you know he's and I said, well, you want to be married to him? She goes, I don't want to be married to him. I want to be his mistress. And I was
Wow.
like, what the fuck?
God, I'd leave the room.
I know.
I'd leave the room and make
I was
tea.
like, I gotta gain weight.
I would make tea and I would
gotta
think about my life.
I gotta stop being so shredded. I gotta get into crime and gain some weight instead of being so good.
Yeah, just eat some pasta.
So legit and shredded.
Thick up.
Yeah,
But he
man.
died young. That was a bummer.
Yeah.
He was one of those
55.
guys that when he died, I was like, oh, man.
How old was he? 55 or 52 or some shit?
He was in that neighborhood.
Looked every bit of 60.
Yeah, he had it all in his system too, baby.
Yeah, he did, right?
Yeah, he had the full ride.
He liked to do his. Well, I know guys who worked with him. And I know guys well who worked with him, and he could fucking tear it up, man.
What was the movie
Great
where
guy,
he
though.
played a hitman? What was that movie?
True Romance.
No, yeah, it was that one, but there was a more recent one. God damn it. Was it with Brad Pitt? Wasn't there a movie with him and Brad
Yeah,
Pitt?
Killing Me Softly.
Yes. Was he a hitman too? They were both hitman?
Well, he's also in The Drop. I don't know if you're thinking about that.
No, I'm
too.
thinking of
Okay.
Killing Me
All
Softly.
right.
That's the one, right?
He was great in True Romance, man.
Fuck, he's great in everything. He was amazing. I mean, that Tony Soprano's character literally changed
Genius.
what we think of as like a hero in a TV show. Because all of a sudden the hero was a murderer. Like the hero, like when he killed Christopher, like when they had the car accident, he just fucking smothered him. He's like, this is a good excuse to kill this guy. He just killed him right there. I was like, whoa, holy shit. Holy shit.
When he closed his nose,
Yeah, man. That was fucked
just
up.
held his nose closed, like,
That was fucked up. Yeah.
and then that's what it was like. That's willing to do whatever it took.
Yeah. But it was also the star of the star of the show, and you liked him.
Oh yeah,
That's what was so
that
weird
was so
about
genius.
it. There's never been a show like that.
He was so bad.
Yeah. Look.
He was so bad.
And
That-
there hasn't been a show like that since then. I mean, who else is like that much
That's
of a
amazing.
villain and a hero wrapped up into one? Who
Yeah.
else? Like, what other
The only person that you can maybe Breaking Bad, but you could see why he was doing it. He wasn't a bad guy.
Yeah,
Tony
he's-
Sopranos was I
a
mean,
bad
cheated
guy.
on his wife constantly,
Murdered
killed
people constantly.
Yeah, but it was what was fascinating about him is that it was the dichotomy. It was the guy who loved his family, told his son to do his homework and not to swear at the table, and also would order a hit in the same breath. And
Right.
that insane contradiction was what you can't take your eyes off, because we're bipolar apes, because you can be a very bad guy and also a really good guy, and that's what's fucking crazy and true about human beings.
Well, that's just what's brilliant though about that writing is that they figured out how to encapsulate that in fiction, where it's playing out every week, and you're not sick of the guy. Like you wanna see if he's gonna make it. Is he gonna get busted? Is he going to jail?
Yeah.
Are they gonna crack down on him? Who's gonna rat him out?
Yeah,
You know?
but that show is an interesting like kind of metaphor for life. Like, I guess what I really worry about with our social situation today is the destruction of people and how they're never allowed to come back into the fold. That's what I worry about.
Yeah.
Like public shaming or whatever it might be. Like, there are very few people that deserve eternal damnation, and they are out there. But for the most part,
Roman Polanski.
it's a tough, again, a great artist and a great filmmaker. I'm reacting to the fact that I can't justify having you come back to the country and be pardoned after that. If what you did is true, if what I've read and been told is true, I don't know how I'm supposed to forgive that.
So
and
that
it's mainly because it's
falls
a
into
child.
right. So that falls into the line of unacceptable things.
For me.
But then there's people that have been shamed like Al Franken, where you're like, really?
No, that was ridiculous.
What happened?
That was ridiculous.
What did he do? Like, I get that the photo was very inappropriate that he took Leanne tweeted.
But it cheapens. You can't conflate him with Harvey Weinstein. That cheapens.
No, you can't. He shouldn't have done it, but he was trying to be funny.
Right.
And sometimes when people are trying to be funny, especially when people are around each other all the time, they get stupid and they cross lines and, you know. Or
you just don't read the signals. You cross a line,
right?
In that you're trying to pick somebody up, or you're putting pressure on them.
Don't you think that ultimately what this is going to do, though, is people are going to have to learn to be nicer to each other? Don't you think that?
Or they're going to be really careful and afraid, and I worry that if you have, for example, first of all, where do most people meet their wives and their girlfriends? A lot of times it's at work.
A lot of times.
Okay, their husbands and their wives. And I think that don't be surprised if corporations start to have a zero tolerance policy for any kind of romance in the office space. It'll be like the military. Nobody's allowed to date anybody, and if you do, you get fired right away. No questions asked.
And now think about the fact that you're 8 hours a day in this place, which is most of your waking time.
It's not going to make anybody happy. It's not going to make anybody happy. Also, please add to the fact that we're also going to have all of the meetings between men and women in rooms videotaped. And in fact,
HD.
And in fact, men and women aren't allowed to be in the same room without a chaperone.
Yes.
You're going to see all this shit. Because
chaperone's a robot,
because you're
too.
talking about major money. You're talking about major fucking, it'll be a robot with a camera.
The robot, it says, I think you're speaking inappropriately.
Exactly. And so you have all these issues. So is that going to make all of us happier?
No, we're going to have to quit.
Is it going to make us
safer?
safer?
Working in offices.
Are we going to be safer?
I'm hoping that it makes people quit offices. So what happens is there will be no sexual harassment at the workplace because there's no workplace.
Fuck, I never thought of that, dude.
Dude,
you're smart.
Way ahead.
You're smart.
No more working together.
No more working together.
No.
Men and, that's kind of
Places
why.
we show up and work together all day. Fuck all that.
By the way, men and women working together is a pretty new thing in history.
Yeah.
Men and women
40
have always,
years.
men and women have never worked together.
Yeah.
So
recent.
This is all kind of like, and you know, listen, when men and women get together, people are starting to fuck.
Whoa.
They're just going to fuck.
Whitney Cummings has a funny joke about that, about working in a writing room, working in on a set of a show. Like she doesn't usually work like at a place.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, this is what people are doing here. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to give away her joke. It's very funny, but that's, there's something that's happening when men and women get around each other. They're jockeying for sexual position.
Yes. And they're attracted to each other and they work together and they end up liking each other.
Yep. Yeah. And then they get to know each other at work. And
and then what happens? Okay. So you can't, so there's no sex and there's no romance and there's no humor.
Oh.
Humor's dangerous.
Humor could be a problem. What if you say something racist and you're trying to be funny?
You get in trouble.
Don't do it.
And you're not racist, but you were just trying to be funny.
Right.
Okay.
But you could say racist things. I'll give you a free pass to say racist things about white people.
Well, that's fine.
I'll give you a free pass. Do you have any racist white things that you could say at work today, Tommy?
Yeah. Can they be hillbillies?
Yes, or rednecks.
All right, rednecks.
Dirty rednecks, dirty hillbillies.
Yeah.
That's fine. Shit all over those people that were forced, their whole family worked in a coal mine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ha, you dummies. What, you fucking your kids? Ha ha.
Yeah.
You could be racist all day for white people.
You can.
And there's some white people that do not have a fucking good deal.
No.
They don't have a good deal.
No. They got $400 in the bank, if that.
There's some incredible amount of money, or incredible amount of people, rather, in this country that have less than that in their bank.
Yeah.
There was some.
It's something like 50%.
Yeah, some study they did. People that have $200 or less in their bank account, and it's some insane number, like into the millions and millions of people.
Well, this is what I always say: the people that voted for Trump, a lot of them have been demonized by, the left as being racist or homophobic or misogynist
Nazis
and stuff like that. Yeah, or they're good people who have $400 in the bank or less, can't send their kids to baseball, etc. And along comes Hillary Clinton, who's Obama light, talking about the same shit. And they were like, I'll try anything but her.
Look at this.
There you go. That's real.
Read that.
That's real, man. 6 in 10 Americans don't have $500 in savings. There you go.
Holy shit! It's
Now-
way more than I thought it was.
Now, when you don't have, now we're back to that story about scarcity.
Isn't that like 150 million people or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
60%.
it's more than So
what is
150 million people.
What is the real number of people in America? Is it 300 million or is it more?
320 or
Yeah,
something.
330, I think.
330?
Roughly.
So it's more than that.
Yeah,
So it's
so-
like 170, 170 million
Half would be
people.
170 and change.
Oh
Yeah.
my god!
So when you got $500 in the bank, are you thinking about gender-neutral bathrooms?
always.
Are you thinking about
No,
how
I'm always
misogynist
thinking
everybody
about,
is?
Yes,
Constantly,
everyone's
right?
misogynist, bro.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
To be a man and see other men's, I'm just ashamed of my gender. I'm ashamed.
All you're fucking thinking about is getting more money, so you can
Yeah.
send your kids to fucking
You know what
anything.
Brett Weinstein said that was really interesting about this?
Is it Brett or Eric? I always think
Brett
it's Eric.
and Eric. There's
Oh.
brothers. They're brothers.
Oh.
They both been on my podcast.
Oh, wow.
Eric is a mathematician who works for Peter Thiel.
Yeah, I like
and
that
Brett
guy.
is the professor from Evergreen College that got the day of absence where they made him quit because they were saying white people need to stay home. Everybody's like, that's so racist.
He's also a Jew.
Yes.
Like the Jews.
He's super progressive too.
It doesn't matter. The Jews didn't exactly have it easy.
What he was saying that's interesting, he was saying that this is not just about that. It's also about subordination, and that you're seeing this subordination play that's taking place. And that a lot of these men, like the way they're behaving to be subordinate. They're being obedience trained.
Yeah.
You know, and they're giving into it to show that you shouldn't punish me because I'm on your side, because they're terrified of the women that are wielding this power now.
Yeah, but I got a
and they're
theory.
wielding it wildly.
I got a theory
Ooh,
about
what's
that,
the theory?
bro.
What's that theory, bro?
Well, men historically, when you create a bunch of quiet resentment, it turns into loud violence. Men are really good at. You got to be careful about emasculating men wholesale, because I always worry that it's very easy to whip them up when you got the right circumstances and the right leader. And men like to organize, and they like to fight, and they like to fight back. And that's what makes them feel significant when they've been emasculated. And I don't think it's, that's that expression, punishment doesn't change behavior. It just suppresses it.
Well, do you know that in the turn of the century, not this one, but the last, there was a giant bachelor culture in America where men they had just gotten through, like a lot of it was like in the 20s too, like after the Depression. It was like the burden of having a family was just too much. It wasn't attractive to them, and there was a bunch of men that gravitated towards pool halls. And in the early 1900s in New York City, there was more than 900 pool halls in New York City.
Damn.
Just stop and think of that.
Damn.
More than 900 pool halls. And there was all these men that would just go there and they would hang out and they were like, fuck that life.
Mm-hmm.
And they just didn't want to have a part of it because
That's
it
what
was too
happens.
brutal. It was too hard. All this country would need for this thing to flip on its fucking ass, all they would need is legalized prostitution. And guys would be like, wait, hold up. Wait a minute. Hold on. I definitely love you. But wait a minute. What am I signing? What is this? If people found out that they could just get sex anytime they wanted, if they had $100, like if you have $100, you can get sex.
Yeah.
And you can get sex from a pretty girl and it's clean and you don't have to worry about it. People would be outraged. Like, well, how am I going to have power over this man if I can't control his sex? I only have him locked. Otherwise, we're just friends. See, if we're just friends, I can't have half his money. I can't tell him what to do. I can't tell him when to be home.
But let me ask you a question.
Hold on, we have to live together,
Yeah.
and I have to control his sex.
Yeah.
If we live together and then I control his sex, then I have all this power. But if they were in a situation where legalized prostitution was just like grocery stores, where it was just everywhere, what would first of all, the amount of hoes would probably be the same. It's like
They'd just be a lot richer.
now they're just doing it like under the table. It's hard to
Yeah,
get away
yeah.
with it. They can get raided. There's sneakiness. There's all this. They're gold diggers instead of hoes. Some girls would just go straight into hoeing.
Yeah, but here's my question. Do you think men are more interested in sex or admiration?
There's both.
They wanna
but
be
they
admired,
get fake
right?
admiration from the hoes.
Yeah, but they
I say
also
hoes
know
with all due respect.
They know it's fake though. Like I think men
Some of them don't care, dude.
want to be admired more than anything else.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
They want their dick to be the biggest, even if it's a mushroom cap. Just make all the noise, please, and let me know I'm King Kong. And that's why, and you stick to the woman. A lot of times you'll stick to that one woman who you know has got your back no matter what. She just loves
Brian,
your ass.
but you're talking about a guy who finds that. There's a lot of people out there that don't find that. And for them, legalize prostitution right next to Bolero. Hop on in. You get your dick sucked.
Right next to Panera Bread.
Yeah, you go to
Sandwich
Panera
and a
Bread,
dick suck.
Get a grilled cheese and tomato soup. Get your dick sucked. Like, it would change, like, what people need. Like, why are you dating? Are you dating specifically for sex?
Right.
Or are you dating because you want companionship? Like, are you too consumed with work? And are you busy all day and you just like to hang out with your friends, but you get horny?
Yeah.
Because we have a solution for you.
Yeah.
And if that was the case, I'm not saying that relationships wouldn't be the same. What I'm saying is there's a lot of relationships that wouldn't be the same.
Dude, I think you're onto something. My buddy, you know Stevie Blue Eyes, he was
Sure.
like, he would have stayed in jail if he had access to women. Because he was hanging out with all his friends. He was like, it was the fucking best.
That's
It was the
hilarious.
best. He goes, all we do is fuck around, laugh all day, lift weights. And, you know, the food kind of sucks, but you're all laughing and you're all in a shitty situation. So everybody gets along. He goes, if I had girls... If I had access to
hilarious.
women, I would not have left.
That's hilarious.
This is in Fort Dix too, like, you know, the biggest federal penitentiary in the world. I was laughing.
I'm
so
obviously torn on prostitution because I don't want anybody that I know's kids or my kids to go into prostitution. But I also don't think anybody should tell people that something that's completely legal to do for free is illegal to charge money for.
Yeah.
Like there was some gay male escort that came out today. I put it on my Twitter about like, just let these fucking people have sex. Like some gay male escort was talking about the priests at the Vatican, and he's like naming names. I fucked that guy. I fucked him. I fucked him. He wants to suck my dick. I fucked him. And you know, they was talking about them being hypocritical. Like, yeah, they're definitely hypocritical. Let these fucking people have sex. This is crazy. Like your system doesn't work.
Yeah.
If they just let them have sex and let them have male escorts, just leave them alone. Say that's fine. Just as long as do you believe in Jesus still? Yeah, just like dick. I believe in Jesus, but I love dick. Okay, well, Jesus must have put that love for dick in you. Jesus put that love for dick in your heart.
Well, that is the truth.
Sure.
Right?
Must have. Yeah.
I mean, the truth is, it's a complicated thing, right? Because then where do you, so like, we have these urges, and a lot of them are not very productive, right? So you want to have sex with you want to have sex with everybody you can or whatever it might be, but you know that's not viable because there are just certain trade-offs to that.
Well, you know, the viable alternative is ex machina. You have these AI robot fuck dolls that live in your house, but the problem is they probably get too smart and then they kill your real wife. You know,
the algorithm.
Yeah, and they figure out a way to convert your sperm into babies. They've figured out a way to create an actual digital womb.
It's kind of a good idea for a movie, dude.
Well, it's Ex Machina. That movie. Did you see that?
No.
Oh my God, it's one of my all-time favorite movies.
Really?
Yeah, when I top 20 all-time favorite movies.
Well, I'm obsessed with Black Mirror.
It's basically an hour and 45-minute Black Mirror.
Wow.
Ex Machina is amazing. Yeah, I do love Black Mirror. It's awesome. But Ex Machina is actually even more intense. Wow. It's a really well-done movie about AI. And it has very few cut the shit scenes. Like when you're watching it, you're like, whoa.
Like all of this could be possible in other words?
100%. Yeah. Yeah, it's really good. I don't want to tell you any more. It's really good.
I'll watch it.
Yeah. It's the shit. And it's also... Yeah, that would be the move, though.
What do you think of
Robot
AI?
fuck dolls.
I mean,
scared, terrified. It's going to eat us.
You think?
What do I think? How about this? Boston Dynamic makes those fucking robots that you can't kick over. Do you know those things? Yeah. And they're funded by DARPA. And DARPA makes a robot called the Eater robot, EATR robot. And the Eater robot literally eats biological material. I'll spell that out for you. It's fucking people. It eats dead people on the battlefield to fuel itself. It is an actual working concept of a fucking robot that eats dead people for fuel. Yes. EAT. Oh, well, it can eat hay and maybe sticks and rabbits. Maybe it'll eat a rabbit. It's going to eat people, you fuck.
Wait.
Autonomous
so
Tactical
scary.
Robot Eater Project. It's from a DARPA. What's
DARPA?
What are you
again?
highlighting there?
I'm not.
What's
That's in a
DARPA?
video.
Oh, it's a video. I'm looking at the cursor doing that. I'm like, why are you highlighting DARPA?
What's
But
DARPA?
yeah, DARPA is, I forget something research. It's all military shit. DARPA is...
Eater a robot?
yes.
Come on, man.
Yeah, it's a real thing. Yeah, it's a real thing that the same people that are making those Boston Dynamic robots, you know, did you see the one recently that it bounces, it pulls up to the side of a wall and then bounces over the wall like 13 feet in the air?
No.
Lands on top of a building. It could land on the roof of a building.
Come
from,
on, man.
From the bottom and hop all the way up to the roof
Is there
of
a video of that
yeah,
shit?
second-story building. Two-story building. It leaps literally from the ground all the way to the top.
This shit is so
and rights
scary.
itself. It's all on wheels, so it rights itself perfectly every time.
That's so fucking
Dude,
scary.
it's so bananas. And all this stuff is happening like while people are paying attention to Kim Kardashian's ass. Even Jamie. Jamie's like, oh, Kim Kardashian called out the Yeezy Mafia today. Like,
Dude, you like your Kim Kardashian, huh?
he loves celebrity gossip.
I did an episode of How I Met Your Mother, and she was there, and we were like, her dressing room was right next to mine, and she was on set. And she didn't look like what I thought she was. She didn't have any makeup. She's pretty and all, but it was just like, I didn't even know that it was her. I was like, I think that's Kim Kardashian. I'm not sure.
It's she's a person.
She's a person.
We've made a bizarre choice to spend a tremendous, and me included, spend a tremendous amount of time thinking about a person that really doesn't do a thing.
Doesn't
They
do a
just
thing.
live.
Yeah,
Like
that's
that's
very
what's weird. It's like they've tapped into this extreme desire for gossip in some weird, crazy way where they do all these wacky things in their life where you can't take your eyes off of them, and they always have something new going on, but they don't do anything.
No.
So now she got wise though and married a guy who does a thing.
Yeah, he
she
does.
married Kanye West,
Yeah.
right? He's a giant cultural thing.
Yeah.
So then now it becomes like more legit. Now the whole empire is like really solidified. Like they've added some fucking sand to the cement.
It's
really
ambition,
tied it
right?
in.
It's ambition. It's just like this strange.
It's definitely that. There's ambition, but there's also this. They've figured out how to juke the system. They figured out how to shuck and jive and make their way in with no singing, no dancing, no art,
you
no
have
comedy.
you have lots of money. I think I have money, but do you do anything different than you did, like besides not worry so much about what a car's going to cost? But what do you do that's luxurious?
I don't really do much, man. I dress. This is how I dress.
I know.
I dress normal. I work. I work out. I go running.
What do you do? Is there any vice
bow
you like?
hunting.
You like bow hunting?
It's not a vice though. That's where I get my
No,
meat.
but I mean, this is what I mean. It's like I
stand up.
don't spend right. I have my stand up. I like to box. I like to, the things I do don't take that much money. They take a lot of time and energy.
I think if you wanted to travel and you wanted to go on some big time adventures, which I have decided I'm really interested in doing some adventures some year, especially like hunting adventures. I like to go to New Zealand.
Dude, you got.
I'd like to
my
go
buddy's
to
got a farm in New
Alaska.
Zealand. We should go to his farm.
I would love to. I'd love to go to. I want to bow hunt in Alaska in the Yukon.
He
I wanna
kills
go.
wild goats on his property.
They're wild, huh? What kind of
Yes.
goats?
I don't know, but they're wild. He lives is an
New
incredible
Zealand's
place.
insane. New Zealand is really like an experimentation in invasive species because everything is invasive. They have red stag that are from
Yes.
Europe, and they have all these axis
Huge
deer.
red stag.
Actually, I don't know if they have axis deer.
He's got huge red stag on his property that he shoots. They're insane.
Yeah. They have some immense animals there, and they don't have any predators. So they have these crazy seasons where you can just shoot things all the time. Oh, there's a wild goat. Look at the cool horns on that thing, man.
Yeah, that's what he shoots.
Fuck, that's amazing. Look at that thing.
I know.
It's like the ripples of a jellyfish when it's in the water.
If you want to go, we can go.
Look at that fucking
We'll bring
horns
our
on that
bows.
thing.
Yeah.
That's a New Zealand wild goat, huh?
Yep.
Wow, those horns are beautiful. Look at the coat on that thing,
I
too.
know. It's
What an
gorgeous.
amazing animal.
I know. They're smart.
I was watching a thing online about these guys that were hunting for bighorn sheep, and they were in the Rocky Mountains hunting for Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep with a bow and arrow.
Yeah,
and I was looking at these things, and I'm like, what a crazy animal. You remember we saw them when we were in Montana, and Ranella was pointing out the size of their balls?
Yes.
Because they have like church bell
Well,
balls.
dude, they're so athletic too.
They
They're,
kick
like,
each other in the
huge.
balls.
They do?
They kick each other in the balls when they're like jockeying for attention.
Oh my God.
They headbutt each other, which is why they have those antlers in the first place.
Yeah.
And then they walk up behind each other and lift their feet up and kick each other in the balls.
Damn, I didn't see that.
Constantly.
They crash into each other though. It's incredible.
Oh, dude.
And they're so athletic. I was up in Big Whiskey Mountain in Wyoming, me and my buddy hiking, and he just points, man. And there were just 7 of them, a row of them, and they are fucking huge. They're
Huge,
They're
300
giant,
pounds.
Yeah, giant animals.
Yeah, look at these fuckers.
Look at this.
What
Look
a
at this.
cool animal, too. Like when you look at the
Thing's got some balls on it.
horns in their head.
Oh!
Boom!
Whoa.
And look at the sack once they collide. Look at his sack on the right. Just swinging.
How crazy that they
Bong.
don't have any head trauma.
Well, they're probably dumb as fuck. I mean, seriously. What do they have to do? I smell mountain lion.
They're
Run.
they're not doing algorithms.
Yeah, I mean, their food is right in
at
front of
that.
their fucking stupid face all the time.
Look at that.
Here it goes. Boom!
Wow.
And they snap into it too. It's not like they run in with their
they
head down.
snap.
They're putting all this extra emphasis in. They're trying to make it uncomfortable for the other dude.
The crazy thing is when you see two bucks and their horns get tied up together.
That's crazy, but what's crazy about this is that they pause afterwards, so they must get their bell rung. Like
I would
they
imagine,
crack,
right?
But look, they just stand there and they back up. Like no one is like, "Bitch, I'll hit you again, and then I'll hit you again."
You're right.
Right? Watch what they do.
They get dazed.
They fucking must be. Watch this. Boom! And then they're both like, "What is happening here? Oh Jesus!" They turn to sideways, almost like they want to ignore the fact that the guy's there. Wow! Look! They look at the sky, dude. I wonder if they see cool shit. Like, look, oh, I see angels.
Yeah,
you see anything?
yeah.
What do I see? Butterflies.
They
Look,
hallucinate.
I see fairies. See the fairies?
His
see 'em?
feet came up off the ground.
Dude, they hit each other so hard, but they just stop. Look, they hit each other and then they just chill. How weird is
It's
that?
like they're getting off on it.
It's like they're getting some kind of a high. I wonder if anybody's ever observed, like, I wonder if there'd be a way to measure, like, certain neurotransmitters on them, like, in action, like, let them collide with each other and then figure out, like, what happens to the brain. Like, is there some burst of happiness that comes out of
Didn't
that?
they talk about this in Concussion, where they don't suffer from brain trauma or CTE? Actually, they don't get. You'd think that they would, but the male rams don't have signs. Of
Yeah,
CTE.
their brain is designed different than ours. Same as a woodpecker. Woodpecker's brain, they're fucking. They were in my
Is it their
yard.
brain or the physiology of their skull?
Well, it's the both, but
Yeah.
the way their brain is attached to the inside of the skull's different.
Yeah.
Our brain's like barely attached. Our brain's like someone who's like not worried about anything bad going wrong.
Well, it's
like
all
us.
gelatinous. Like our spinal cord goes up into our brain, and it's all one big sort of gelatinous mass, right?
Yes. Well, we're just not sturdy.
No.
You know, we're just so weak in comparison to other animals. Like you know what it's like. Like you remember when you shot your deer in Montana, and we were cleaning it and dressing it, and we're pulling on the skin.
Yeah.
You're grabbing which
Thick
a lot
skin.
of people turn into jackets and pants and
Yeah.
shit. That's what the Native Americans used to make clothes out of. And you're grabbing that hide and you're thinking, oh, this is so thick. Like this shit is strong.
Yeah.
And you're pulling on it. And then grab your bitch ass
I
skin.
know.
We have toilet paper skin.
I know. We got shitty
So
skin.
nothing.
You can nick it, and it's a problem.
Just
You got to put a
start
Band-Aid on
spouting.
it.
While we were cleaning that animal, while we were when you were doing the ravine comer, I remember I sliced my finger open, just touched my finger with the blade, and my finger squirting all over the place. Meanwhile, I got to really dig in to get to this meat. I got to really cut through all this skin. It's so hard.
Yeah. And then you get an infection. Like if you get a blister on your foot and you're in the wilderness, you know.
Ooh, you're fucked.
Yeah.
You're fucked. You know, a lot of guys
you can
get
die.
because they wear new boots. They go, "Oh, I got these new boots. I'm going hiking. This is awesome." And then your feet just get fucked.
But also,
up.
what bitches we are in the cold too. We can't handle the cold.
Oh yeah, I got some negative messages. I remember on Twitter when the episode of Meat Eater came out, when you and I were in Montana, and I was like, "Don't plan on being comfortable. It's the cold." Oh, you fucking pussies! This is poor woodsmanship. Like, hey,
Poor woodsmanship.
Listen,
hey, I'm
man.
not a good woodsman. I'm a pussy.
it's 9 degrees outside.
Yeah, yeah.
You just want me to suck it up? Oh, does that make you feel better if I just suck it up? How about if I say it sucks and then I suck it up?
Hunting. I remember just hearing you going, camping blows.
Camping
I could
blows.
hear you shaking. I could hear you shivering in the morning. I could hear,
Yeah.
putting on your socks, and you go, almost to yourself, camping blows.
But do you know what doesn't blow? When the camping's over.
That's the best.
Like, you have the best showers ever.
We have the greatest time too, though. It's
fun.
all so much fun
We gotta
because
do
we make
another
each
one.
other laugh so hard.
I think Ranella wants to go to Mexico with us.
I want to go.
Okay, let's
well,
do
you
it.
guys don't invite me anymore. I want to come.
I told him. I told him the next one,
Ranella,
Callen
let's
has to
go.
come.
Yeah,
Because we did one where we struck out. We went bow hunting for deer in Arizona last, not Arizona, excuse me, Nevada last, I think it was August.
Nothing.
Struck out.
Was it cold or was it super
very
hot?
Very hot. 100
Yeah.
degrees.
Really?
Yeah. So hot that if you shot an animal, there's a real concern about getting the meat back to camp as quickly as possible.
Before it rots?
Yeah. It's fucking hot.
TJ Dillashaw told me he was up in the mountains of
Nevada?
Nevada, and it was super cold. But that was like I don't know what time of year.
Yeah, he was probably in a different season, and maybe for elk.
Or he was. I think he was looking for deer.
Well, there's always a bunch of seasons too, right? There's like early archery, which is what we were doing, which is where the animals are in velvet. So they've just finished growing their horns, and they're starting to scrape the velvet, which is the outer skin, off of the bone. I didn't even know until really recently that antlers are literally bone. And an elk's antler, like those antlers right there, that's the fastest growing bone in the wild kingdom.
Wow.
The fastest growing thing in nature. Those antlers fall off every year. They weigh, every year. They weigh 30 pounds.
Wow. Holy shit.
Yeah, they're like 15 pounds each side of bone, and it grows in a couple of months.
What?
Yep. Grows
That's
quick.
nuts.
Yeah.
I didn't know
see if you
that.
could find a video.
Did you see any
the growth of elk antlers?
when you were in Nevada, like in that 100-degree heat? Did you see any other animals out there?
Yeah, someone saw an elk. We saw a lot of like jackrabbits and stuff like that. They have a lot of rabbits. You have to be really careful with the rabbits too. Like if you kill one and skin one, they have little mites and shit that will give you infections that you can die from.
What?
Like legitimately. See, antlers, while antlers are growing, they're covered in fuzzy skin called velvet. Yeah, that's what they look like when they're in velvet.
Is that what you?
So look at that. Look how quick it goes.
Doesn't that have human growth hormone in it? Or I mean, like
yes. The velvet from the antlers. A lot of football players were taking it because it actually lets you grow growth hormone. So look, you can see it April 8th, then April 15th, and then April 22nd. Look how quick that shit's growing. That's crazy.
That's fucking
That's
nuts.
crazy. 7 days later, it's longer.
What?
Look at that. May 6th. It's fucking gigantic now. That's nuts. Look at that. May 13th, May 20th, a week later.
It's like a mushroom.
A week later.
Grows as fast as a fucking mushroom.
That is crazy. A week later after that.
And it's all that's nuts.
Nuts. That is nuts. July 1st. Look at that. Just a couple of months. July 8th. July 15th. Look at the size of that thing. Okay. This must be a commercial elk farm that we're looking at because these elk are so big. Like their antlers are so big that seems like it seems like they're feeding it something.
It'd be hard to get that many pictures of the same one too.
Yeah.
That many times.
Yeah, that must be a commercial. It's like if you, let me pause.
No,
it.
it's
Pause
obviously.
right there. Pause right there. Yeah, it is. If you saw that elk in the wild, you would shit your fucking pants. That would be the bull of all bulls.
Why? Because of its antlers.
Look at the size of the antlers on that thing. That thing has like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points on one side, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's a 9 by 9. That's
Do the
crazy.
females not have antlers?
No, they don't have antlers. But every now and then a deer female has antlers. Yeah, some freak bitch just likes to fight. Fucking some bull dyke, sort of dykey doe, just grows some antlers. Yeah, some guy shot one recently.
Dykey doe.
And they were all confused. It was white, or it was a female rather, and it had antlers. And they're like, "What is this?" Yeah, but that shit grows every year. People
What
go
would we
shed
hunt
hunting.
in Mexico?
I don't know. Maybe deer. There's a lot of deer in Mexico. Sonora has a lot of mule
Isn't
deer.
it kind of dangerous though? Aren't there a bunch of
Don't be scared, homie.com.
cartels down
They're not going to fuck with you. What you got to worry about is, if you would go to their towns and cause problems.
She went to the towns and were
busy.
like, just say no to drugs.
They're busy making drug money.
Yeah.
They don't have time to go looking for some asshole shooting a deer.
Yeah, you're right.
And there's ranches that you go to out there where they're hunting ranches. Like that's why people go there in the first place.
Right.
And that would probably be like where you park your stuff and you drive in from Arizona.
I went to Cancun and one of the guys who was there, and he's a well-to-do guy, and I said, what about the cartels? He goes, they own a lot of these resorts, dude. You're money for them. Don't worry about the cartels. Then I talked to a guy who had this amazing restaurant, and I said, what about the cartels? And he said, they come here. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, they'll show up in a bunch of SUVs. They come, they tip, they say thanks. I go, they don't like extort money? No. The only time that happens is if you're selling drugs out of your restaurant. And if you're selling drugs out of your restaurant, they want a piece. Otherwise, you're fine. It's all ingrained. It's all like a whole, it's not
a business.
What we say. Yeah, it's a business.
Yeah, I was in Punta Mita, and we took these golf carts. They let us take these golf carts to town. We're staying at this resort, and you could leave the resort. And when you leave the resort, there is a stark contrast.
Yes, sir.
From safety and beautifully manicured lawns and landscaped grounds to we get out. We are maybe 100, 200 yards from the outside, and we see a military base. Yeah. It's a very small military base with two guys with bulletproof vests and helmets on, holding, I don't know what kind of fucking high-powered rifle, are behind a metal plate that's attached to the top of a Jeep. So they literally are in, like, riot war-type vehicles, fully armed, ready to go. So if anything went wrong, right over there, they drive in. So they're protecting this resort. And I realized,
they were protecting the resort.
That's what it's for.
Fuck.
They're there to protect all these wealthy people from, Europe and America and wherever that fly in to stay at this resort. Wow. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Because it makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, why else would that be there? It's there, and they're like waiting outside the gate.
There's a great deal to be said about having institutions you can trust, like courts that can enforce contracts that are not corruptible. So in this country, if you buy a house, that piece of paper actually means something. In most countries, not so much. It's your private property, but somebody with a bigger gun can come and take it from you. And
they can decide you did something wrong, and they have to take it.
Yeah, and that is the fundamental difference between our country still and a lot of other countries, including Mexico in some places.
Well, that's what happened to that McAfee guy. And where was it that he was at? Was it Costa Rica? Where was he? No, somewhere else. Remember that guy, the McAfee guy that came up with that virus software, and then he went bananas and moved to some other country, some tropical country.
What happened to
Dominican?
him?
Well, they accused him of murder. What is it? Belize. They accused him of murder, and he had to flee the country, and they took his land.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, they're railroading me. I got to get the fuck out of here. We actually talked to him on the podcast when he was on the lam. He called me up on the phone.
Wow.
And I did an interview with him on the lam.
But that's what happens.
Yeah, he was I guess he's living in America now, but he's like a bona fide wild man. Like he denied these reports, but there's a forum where someone was taking photos of meth that they were making and explaining how they're re-engineering meth and making it better. And they were saying that it was him.
Damn.
That he was the one who was doing that. So he's in Belize, got some fucking lab in his backyard. He denied the whole thing. So I don't know if it's true or not true. I think he said he was trolling. I'm like, okay.
Maybe.
Right? Remember that, Jamie? It was something connected to like bath salts. Like he figured out how to re-engineer bath salts and make them better.
I don't know how people can. You know what's going to happen if you take. Nobody had a lot of problems, and then took some meth, and they got better.
Here's my question though: how many people are doing meth right, and we just don't hear about it? Yeah, meth labs and dead dogs. So the founder of McAfee antivirus went on the run in Belize.
Oh,
yeah, meth labs.
Yeah.
And what was about the dogs? What did it say?
I don't know.
What scroll back? And dead dogs. Oh, okay. Dead dogs. I don't know the story. He says he was trolling about the meth labs, but it's entirely possible that dude was just partying his ass off in Belize. And somebody wind up accusing somebody of murder, and I think they wanted to question him, and he was like, "Fuck you." See ya. I think I'm gonna move back to America. I tried this out. It's not fun, guys.
It ain't happening.
Yeah, I'll just blog about you for a couple of years.
What's he do for money?
I don't know.
He's got a lot of money, probably.
Oh, he started McAfee antivirus. I'm sure he's got millions of dollars.
Man?
They took a lot of his cash, though.
That's a huge problem. That's the problem with Russia and a lot of countries when like the ruling elite has the power to do whatever they want, including kill you.
Just take your house.
This double agent in England today, London, he and his daughter are gravely ill, been poisoned.
Yeah, they were a secret agent against Russia, right?
Yeah, double agents, I guess.
Don't do that.
Well, you're gonna die.
Yeah, that seems like a bad job. Secret agent against Russia.
That's a risky fucking job.
Did you see Icarus? Have you seen that?
Yes, I have.
Your boy won a Oscar for that,
Yes,
didn't
he did.
And well deserved. Well deserved.
Do we know where that Russian scientist is? I love that guy.
That guy is under protection. He is right now under protective custody somewhere.
He's got to be.
Where they're worried about him being assassinated.
Yeah.
They took, not only did they take all of his money, they took away his wife's house.
They did
Yeah,
in Russia?
they're trying to turn his family homeless. I think They're trying to pressure him into going back to Russia and giving himself up by making his family essentially homeless. Yeah,
That's so awful.
They're putting tremendous pressure on him.
So they can't get his wife out or anything? Or?
Gregory, what is his last name? Gagaro?
He doesn't deserve that, man.
Well,
but I would have got my wife out. I would have gotten my wife out.
Apparently. She didn't want to listen. She didn't want to come. He was already out of the country, and she didn't want to listen to him. And she didn't understand. And they were listening to his phone calls and his emails, and he didn't have a way of expressing to her.
Oh.
Like, hey, you've got to get the fuck out now. Like, if he did that, they would have just come and scooped her up.
There you go. No due process.
Rodchenov. Gregory Rodchenov, the head of the Russian anti-doping laboratory. It's an amazing documentary, folks, if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
It's on Netflix.
Man.
But it just shows you like what it could be like in other countries. Like they don't play by the rules.
No.
There's no rules. He who has the power makes the rules.
That's right. You're dealing with mafia, basically, organized badasses.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that would love it to be like that here. Oh, they would love it.
I know, and they don't because they have no idea of what history's about. Here's the thing: if you want to use this, if you want to be, if you don't want to believe in things like due process, all right, integrity of courts and all those things. If you don't want to, if you don't want to believe that you should have a right to criticize your government, I know it works for you right now because the person in power is on your side. But you're next. You're next as soon as the tables flip, and the tables always flip. So you are historically ignorant. There is a reason that the founding fathers thought through these things. They came from tyranny. And the genius of the founding fathers was those checks and balances and representative government. And it's such a radical idea that our leaders are basically they serve at our whim. Now, that's all changing. Lawrence Lessig, you need to have on the podcast, who wrote Republic Lost. I talk about him all the time. Lawrence Lessig will tell you right now. He's at Harvard University. He's a law professor, and he said your government does not represent you. Of the gerrymandered districts, all these districts are gerrymandered. You know what that means? So the congressional districts are essentially, they're redrawn so that they favor one party or another. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm. In terms of demographics.
Sure,
like
sure. So a million Republicans in Massachusetts may as well not vote. They're never going to win. They're just not represented because the districts are so gerrymandered that it's always going to be typically a Democrat. That's one example, okay? Of the 435 seats in Congress, the ones that aren't gerrymandered, the ones that actually where your vote actually counts, there are about 35 of those seats. About 35 of the 435. I think that's the number. Just keep this in mind too. Every fucking congressman that you know spends 30 to 70% of his or her time calling for money, raising funds. And
30%?
they do it 30 to 70% of their time.
That's insane.
And they do it, and this has been well documented in Republic Lost, in So Damn Much Money. There are some very good books that I've read on this. I've had Lessig on my podcast twice. You got to have him on because he's fucking important.
I'd be happy to.
He's so important to listen to. And
How do you spell his name?
Lawrence and then Lessig, Slessig. And he does an amazing job. He's got a great TED Talk. You can listen to it for 20 minutes. That's all it is. And just listen to him talk about how democracy doesn't work the way it does with money in politics now. And he talks about campaign. When you even say campaign finance reform, everybody zones out. Those words are exhausting. They're like, oh, Jesus, we're going to get this. But he opens the book with this fucking amazing Thoreau quote. And he talks about if you want to talk about the problems in this country, in our democracy. And this Thoreau quote is, I see men everywhere hacking at the branches of evil while none are striking at the root. It's a great fucking quote, right?
Damn, Thoreau had some good ones.
Yes, he had some good ones because some of those, that and my other favorite Mark Twain quote, loyalty to my country, always to my government, only when it deserves it. It's two really cool quotes. But, he does a really good job of saying that 35 seats really matter. And those are the ones that matter. Those are the only districts worth voting. Where it makes sense to vote. Where if you're a Republican or a Democrat, where that's a contested seat. But then those congressional candidates or those ones who are in the seats already, they have to raise money to stay in power. So they're talking to their donors, and their fundraisers are the ones that are telling them what kind of issues they better hit on if they want the big donors.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, man.
What a goofy system.
It's a crazy system.
You know what's interesting, though? The system has affected the place where we came from. Like, what if the United States didn't take off from Europe? What if we didn't bail and start this thing up over here? What would it be like over there?
Yeah.
Because what it was like over there was a bunch of kings and queens and shit.
That's right.
And it had been like that forever.
That's right.
And now it's kind of they have a queen, but it's bullshit. You know, there's the one prince who's getting married that, you know, people seem to give a fuck about. I don't get it.
You know, George
American.
Washington said, right, when they wanted to make him king, he said, I didn't fight this Revolutionary War to become George II. And King George was the king over there. And when King George found out that George Washington refused the kingship and said, no, I'm a president and I will serve a term and, you know, I'll go back to Monticello or wherever he's from. Was that Jefferson or whatever? Either way, he said, or Mount Vernon, he said, King George said, if he said that, he's the greatest man to ever live. The fact that he rejected power. But that's what George Washington said. I fought against
But what's
monarchy.
amazing is that it's affected there. Like they go, oh, this works better. Like
'Cause
people,
it does.
But how did it set in over there? That's what's fascinating. Like how did it eventually? Like they gave up power to sort of emulate the West.
Well, the British always had a tradition of this. So way before the Revolutionary War, way before the American experiment, there was always, in fact, I think it started with Henry VIII, there was always a contentious debate about how much power the king should have versus Parliament, how much power the king should have versus the landed gentry versus the aristocracy.
Hilarious.
It was always that issue.
But it's kind of hilarious that the king doesn't have to show any merit. Like they didn't rise through the ranks by hacking their way through a river of enemy. They didn't just figure out a way to bring prosperity to the land, and some people voted them as king.
Well, actually, it's actually
hilarious.
fascinating that this small
bloodlines.
island of pale people basically controlled almost the entire world. And one of the things that's given credit is that the British had this sort of religious idea almost of, it was called the Great Chain of Being. And the Great Chain of Being was you have God at the top, king is second place, then you have the aristocracy, then you have the nobility, the landed gentry, and then the serfs. And for you to aspire out of your place, your God-given place, for you to say, I may be an aristocrat or a noble or a landed gentry, but someday I'm going to be the king, that would be considered fucking heresy. That would be the equivalent of you saying, I think white people are better than black people today. I mean, it would.
Someone's
you just
going to
didn't
take
do
that
it.
and use it as a quote.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to get in trouble now.
I know. They're going to isolate
Can't
it.
even say that. Like you have to pause in between each one, say other words.
Yeah, God.
You have to speak in code.
No, you're right. I worry about that stuff. But you would not.
You couldn't do it.
But that created incredible order, and it created a very, very good system to get shit done. When people all were in their place doing their duty, it was very easy to organize.
Right, but not to innovate.
The
not to take
Brits
big,
were great
giant
innovators.
changes like America has done.
No, but the Brits were great innovators because they
did fine. But what I'm saying is they don't have the freedom that they had over here. If you don't have a caste system, you have the ability to rise from the bottom to the top. Now we're here.
That's right.
Like that. That
right.
is what is most attractive about America.
Yes, potential. That's why we haven't had revolutions. That's why we don't have the poor confiscating the wealth of the rich, because the poor have to believe they're going to be rich.
Yeah.
That's a huge issue, you know.
I have a lot of friends that have come over from England, man, and they just talk about that, like how you could actually do something here, and people are supportive.
Yeah.
They don't shoot you down. Like he said, there's a thing that happens over there where they don't want to see anybody succeed. They try to put you in your place, and they try to downplay the possibility of your success right to your face.
It's very gauche to try to aspire to something, and Scandinavia has the same issue. It's old Europe thinking, right? It's
that's got to be exhausting.
It's why when Hollande of France started talking about taxing the rich 75% of their income, it was met with a great deal of support because it wasn't workable, but it was, you know. There's always been a real suspicion in Europe of people with too much money because they become aristocracy and they become oppressive.
Well, echoed by what you're hearing today about the elite, the one percenters.
Yeah.
You know, the problem with wealth inequality in this country.
It's called Marxism.
Wealth inequality, man.
Yeah. It's called a march toward. We're dealing with cultural Marxism, and you know, that's always going to be there. It's always going to be. It's a very easy good guy, bad guy thing. What people don't realize is that wealth is always changing. So you don't start wealthy. A lot of people started poor, then they got wealthy, then they lost their money, they got wealthy again. There is, however, a concentration of a great deal of wealth in very few hands. You know, if you look at Google, Amazon, and Apple and Facebook, I think they only employ about 500,000 people total, and they have so much wealth. So, you know, the question is, what do we do about universal income?
Yeah, it's crazy. And I think this is all going to come to a head with AI. I really do. I think things are going to be automated in a way that...
So nobody has a job?
Yeah, I think it's going to eliminate all driving jobs. I think that's within 20 years of our life. We're going to be looking back at driving your own car the way we look back at drum brakes.
I know. So now what? What do we do with human beings?
Question. Very good question.
With an outdated piece of machinery.
Very good question. Like, is it manufacturing, you know, that we need robots for, and maybe there's other things other than driving, manufacturing and driving. Maybe there's other things that people would be.
You're not
cashiers.
Cashiers.
Yeah, you're right.
You put your tray into a thing.
Burger flipping robot Flippy starts shift at Cali Burger. There you go. They got a burger flipping robot.
That's fucking.
So he's going to get a perfect burger. You're not going to have some kid talking about pussy, forgetting about your burger. You get an overcooked burger.
Yeah.
Right.
There you go. So if that's the case, then it seems to me that we have to figure out what to do with all this leisure time, but we have to pay people.
It could be real weird, man. I think it's one of those things that's creeping up on us, sort of like the internet creeped up on us. Like the internet came, and out of nowhere, all of a sudden, everyone had access to any answer to any question you ever wanted. You could watch videos on anything. You could learn how to do anything online. I mean, there's a YouTube video where you can learn basically how to crochet. You could learn how to tan your own leather. You could learn how to build a bomb. I mean, you can fucking do anything.
I know.
You could just constantly be taking in information. That's just the beginning. I think one day within the next 10, 20 years, they're going to have everything automated. Before it's artificial intelligence, it's just going to be a super efficient robot that can do whatever task you program it to do. It's going to be way better at it than people. It'd be pointless to have a person do that thing. And then we got to decide what to do with all these people. And there's going to be a lot of us. There's going to be a lot of us.
It's called the jobocalypse.
Yeah.
So what do we do?
Is that what they're calling it?
Yeah. So I mean, because 47% of
cover of a magazine.
What is it? Humility is the new smart. There's this book about this. 47% of all jobs that we know of now, at least in this country, are going to be obsolete in the next 20 years.
Do you think we'll adapt?
Yes, human beings are.
We'll
fucking
adapt.
adaptable.
I hope we just get more creative. I hope people start doing things more with their hands.
Already are.
Yeah.
We already are. I mean, there's more access to expressing yourself. The problem is it becomes like the cult of the amateur where you just got a lot of bullshit out there. But I do think that we will be in a place, well, like you know, if you look at where philosophy, what was it, the rise of European Western civilization, what the fuck was it? Anyway, if you look at like how the Greeks were able to export timber, wine, and olive oil. It gave their economy some money, and they had leisure time. They didn't have to live on subsistence. They could trade for things that they needed as opposed to making them themselves. So the ancient Greece was fairly wealthy in comparison, and it gave a large sector of their population, at least the richer population, time to do things like not be in the fields all day, but rather time to sit around, eat, and think and talk.
Right. Write books.
Sure, which is probably where a lot of like Socrates and Plato and Aristotle benefited from, right?
Sure.
So you wonder, like, as we get to a point where we don't have to so much, it becomes very easy to keep our bodies in homeostasis, right? Keep our bodies at the right temperature, and we just need a certain amount of food and shelter, and then look at how cheap entertainment is. I mean, look at Netflix. I mean, it's $10 a month. You can watch anything you want.
All
right?
day, forever.
Sure. So then, like, what do we do, man? What do we do with our time?
Well, we didn't have to think about what we were going to do from 1820 to 2020. We didn't have to think about it. It just sort of happened.
Yep.
And I think that's going to happen as well. But I think we're going to have to adjust, obviously, the advice we give to children as far as what's necessary and what's not necessary.
I don't know what to tell my kids.
I don't know what to tell your kids either. That's the thing. They're going to have to figure it out as they go along, but they got to be flexible, you know? And
got to be flexible.
I also think, and this is why I've been thinking this a lot lately, I think we have to move. I think California is over fucking populated, and I think it's going to get to a point in our lifetime where it's not a smart place to be.
Really?
Yeah. There's way too many people. I mean, you know, you go to the airport all the time.
Yeah.
You know that drive.
Yeah.
I had to do it the other day at 8 o'clock in the morning. I was like, this is hilarious.
Or you'll get to a point where you don't have to fly. You won't have to fly. You'll get to a point where...
Yeah, that's true, but that's the sheer number of people, if anything goes wrong,
Yeah.
all in this one spot, it's just not wise. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I always feel unsafe.
It doesn't feel good. It feels like people aren't that valuable. They're everywhere. We're infested. Whereas you go to a
Alvin
place with
Toffler,
less.
I think that's who it was, the futurist, who said you got to learn how to learn, unlearn, and relearn, and that's the only way we're going to survive in the fucking 21st century.
Well, I'm not really worried about people surviving. I think we're going to be okay in that regard, as long as we don't get hit by anything. Like we don't get Putined, or we don't get hit by an asteroid, or we don't get hit by a super volcano, which are all those things are actually really possible. I mean, no one wants to think that we could get attacked by Russia, but frickin' for sure we can. All sorts of weird scenarios can present themselves in this wacky life with a bunch of things falling into place in the wrong way. All of a sudden you got World War II. It's happened. I mean, that's just the nature of humans. And if we deny the past, that was then, we're different now. If we don't look at this rationally, we can realize like how precarious we are. Now, that is just one thing that we can kind of control. Hopefully, human beings can control their impulses to fucking hit the button.
Yeah, but there's that thing that Nalim Tasseb, and what's his name? Nassim Taleb,
yeah.
who talks about the black swan. So know that there's always a black swan. Know that the aberration. Know that history is full of things you never saw coming.
Hitler,
the financial crisis, the housing crisis. I mean, it goes on, and history is full of that. Most wars start as a weekend skirmish, and people kind of leave for the weekend, leave all their stuff, and it's going to be over. And before you know it, it's a 30-year civil war that's happened in Lebanon. That's where Taleb's from. So you've got to at least know that you're not going to be able to predict the future, but know that the unpredictable will always be present and will always take what you took to be reality and flip it on its fucking head. And I think robotics and I think AI are certainly, that tidal wave, man.
Do you worry at all about superpower struggles between like the United States and China, the United States and Russia?
Way less, only because I think that there's less profit in violent warfare. It just doesn't profit anybody. There's way more profit in trade and dealing with, you're going to have issues like this tariff issue, but for the most part, so the biggest advantage is that there isn't a whole lot of advantage for a country to take over territory, because that's not what makes you wealthier. So if Russia came in and took over Silicon Valley, there's nothing to take over.
I don't think they're talking about doing that. I think they're talking about dropping a bomb somewhere. What they're saying is essentially that they're not talking about invading the United States. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
They would never do that. The real question is, unless they nuked us first.
But why would they drop a bomb?
Well, there might be some reason why they feel backed into a corner.
They have a lot of financial interest in the United States.
Sure. Yeah, it's not likely unless they feel like there was some way where they would benefit extremely well from having us debilitated. Like, it's not likely because we would attack back and then it's mutually assured destruction, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that a person could make the decision whether not to do that or whether or not that's logical, and you're relying on a person who's essentially a murderous dictator running this fucking crazy half-assed government over there.
Yeah.
I mean, what is he doing over there? I mean, just from what you know about Russia's state-sponsored doping program, what that guy said went straight up to Putin. Everybody knew what the fuck they were doing. They were doing it on purpose. It was like, I mean, that's a crazy country, man. It's crazy, and it's 2018, and it's still crazy.
It's run by the one idea, which is might makes right.
Yeah.
That the male with the biggest club is the male that calls all the shots.
That's a big concern with me. But my real big concern are natural things.
Yeah, me too.
Pandemic virus,
nuclear accidents,
and earthquakes. The big one for me is super volcano. That is an inevitable reality that we're going to have to face one day, whether it's 100 years from now or it's 10 years from now. Yellowstone is going to blow. They don't know when, but it could be any time.
And it could take out the entire
The whole continent.
continent.
Yeah. If the Yellowstone blows, they say every 600,000 to 800,000 years, it's a continent killer. It just blows and everybody's fucked. And last time it happened was 600,000 years ago. So it might be 200,000 years before it happens again. And who knows? We might figure out how to drill a hole in there and pop it like Dr. Pimple Popper. You ever see that Instagram page?
Sure have.
She just drills a hole in there like a pimple and squirts
Sure
all
have.
that lava out. And maybe it's okay.
Get out of here, yeah.
Maybe that'll keep it from blowing up. But if it blows, dude, they have thousands of earthquakes there a year. Thousands. Just constantly moving and rumbling. There's just loose crust, and underneath is this gigantic reservoir of melted rock. Melted rock that shoots into the fucking sky.
It's giant, too.
The very blood of the earth. Oh, it's so big. They didn't even know it was a volcano until I think it was 20 years ago.
Isn't
They
it
started
crazy?
doing overhead satellite photos, and they're like, oh, Jesus. And they thought it was just like a hotbed of, geosolar activity, or what it would be, not geosolar, geothermal activity. They had Old Faithful, would spray water up in the sky, and they realized, oh, there's something going on underneath the surface. And then they got these satellite photos, and they realized, holy shit, this is a crater. This thing is a crater that used to be a mountain that exploded. And I want to say it's something like, how wide is the called? I don't want to mess this up.
It's
I want to say it's
volcano,
like 600 kilometers wide.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's an
So the
enormous
core of
volcano.
the Earth we know is molten lava. Is the core of the
Yeah,
Earth
there's a
something
bunch
like
of
that?
shit down there and it's not good.
Who the
Wait, is it? Okay. Okay, no,
so
it's
weird.
35 miles, 50 mile long. Okay.
Don't you think it's weird that there are so many different kinds of reality? So the reality that if you go up into the stars, it's a different reality. And if
Yeah.
you go way in the microscopic level, it's a totally different reality. Then you can go to the subatomic level.
Look at this. The region's most recent caldera forming eruption was 640,000 years ago, creating the 35-mile wide, 50-mile long Yellowstone caldera. Okay, I fucked up the distance, but still, that's pretty goddamn big. So a 50-mile long, 35-mile wide volcano that just blows up to the point where the top's not there anymore and just shoots off shit a mile into the sky, and then you get nuclear winter all over the globe, and anything even remotely near it gets cooked instantly.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah, you're fucked.
So we're all dead.
Oh, we're dead as fuck. We're dead as fuck. If Yellowstone
ash.
blows, we don't have a chance.
The people
we'll
I've
be
talked
dead
to
in a
that
couple of
die,
weeks.
the people I've talked to that like they'll lose a leg to a shark or something, and they end up dying. They pass out. They all said that it was super peaceful. Like they just got this overwhelming sense of peace, and they were like, "Oh, I'm gonna die now."
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the brain. The brain's pumping out that dopamine and dimethyltryptamine and all these different things to try to transition you.
Yeah, but like existence is a weird thing.
What do you think happens
I don't know, man. Well,
when you go?
my feeling is that talking to this quantum physicist, this badass dude, I feel like there must be this idea that existence is a question of, he was talking about existence is a question of the question, what question you're asking and where are you standing? So there are different forms of existence, right? So there are different forms of reality. Like there's the subatomic reality, there's the Newtonian reality that you can measure and see. We're here. If I was looking at Los Angeles from a plane, that's a different perspective. It might be a different kind of reality. He kind of like said most physicists, he was trying to explain what existence is, right? And how it's meaningless. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Meaningless.
He was talking about mathematics. And he said, well, this is a reality to us because of where we are standing and the space-time continuum that we are occupying right now. So we are here, and all that you are experiencing may very well not even be a reality right over in this direction. So I said, what the fuck
That's
do you
what
mean,
dudes
right?
say when they sit around with legal papers all day and
Well-
they write a bunch of shit and nobody fucks them.
Well, that's well, that's what I mean. And I said, what the fuck are you talking about? And he said, he's going to win a Nobel Prize. And he said, okay, I guess the best way to put it is, think of you having virtual reality goggles on and people are splashing water on you as you're in the water, and you're getting rocked back and forth. I guess that's the best way to describe what you consider to be your reality. I was like, all right,
Maybe.
I don't know, maybe, but they seem to be able to prove a lot of this. And like, what's fascinating to me is, I didn't know how to get into this, but like he was talking about how electrons can communicate with each other, like on a sheet of metal, and they don't see each other. Like in terms of the electrons, they're light years away, but they completely all work together. And he was talking about
how do they work together?
There's a mathematical way of proving. Hall's theorem there's a mathematical sort of algorithm that proves that they are. The answer to that is that there's an invisible conductor, like something, a higher intelligence, an emergent intelligence, is dictating that communication.
An intelligence or order?
An order.
Right, but not an intelligence as we would
So
think
intelligence is
about.
the wrong way to say it, and he said that to me too, because I
Right.
said intelligence and he said order. And you're right. So there's an order, right? So there's an order to the chaos, right? So the way schools of fish, but schools of
birds,
fish and
flocks
birds,
of birds,
guess what
yeah.
else behaves that way? Inert matter, electrons. Why?
Well, that's one of the things that they think is going on with birds. It's one of the reasons why birds have some sort of internal compass, and that they literally
Hive mentality?
they react to the poles of the earth. Like they know when migrating birds, they know which way to go.
Yeah.
Like they really do, somehow or another. But they also know not to fly into each other. Like when you see them all flying together and they move in tandem.
Yes, it's insane.
It's gorgeous.
It's insane. It's gorgeous. But
And
your
this-
brain is the same way. So the neurons,
yeah.
there's no reason, it makes no sense that the neuron, so each neuron is just essentially an on-off switch or, it's a whatever it is. But for whatever reason, all of those neurons have self-organized.
Yeah.
Who organized them? They self-organized. Okay? That's what's fascinating. And the way your brain has self-organized, so has this sheet of metal. And he kind of proved, he sat around, and I think he's 38 or 39, and he solved this theorem called Hall's theorem. It took them 3 years to make sure he was right.
Don't you think that happens when there's like a big mass event, like mob mentality? Don't you think that's a part of what is going on with mob mentality? And that things happen and things can get chaotic and people just go with it. They go with it in mob. And I think the origin of that is probably survival instincts in war. That in war, you have to accept unbelievably barbaric reality. And so you have to be able to slide into that. Wherever we're killing everybody with axes, let's go. And then everybody else is doing it, I guess I'm in. And then you start hacking people up where you would never do it by yourself if it was just totally up to you.
Yeah.
But you find yourself getting caught up in the wave of where the human hive is moving. That all these people are moving towards violence or moving towards chaos. Like people get wrapped up in these mob mentality moments in a very, very big way.
Well, you can also go, you can step back from that and actually, you can explain that actually when you look at bacteria, certain bacteria and certain insect colonies. And let me explain. So somebody like Antonio Damasio, who is a behavioral scientist who wrote a fucking great book, but very dense, called The Strange Order of Things. And he talks about how human beings behave in a certain way, like their feelings are directly related to their biology, because their feelings are essentially the voices or the mechanism by which you know whether or not to bring your body back into homeostasis when it's out of homeostasis, when it's out of this homeodynamic actually state, right? So in other words, that mob is probably going in there with axes because they perceive, the feelings are they perceive a threat from that other group, because that other group is going to take something from them, okay? It's going to either take their resources, their children, whatever it might be, and take over their territory. So watch. Bacteria actually behave the exact same way. And you can put bacteria into certain, and there's a scientist who does this a lot, you can put them into certain conditions where the bacteria will behave like, they'll do some fascinating things. Not only will they fucking take over the other bacteria and go out into an all-out war and kill mercilessly the other bacteria, but sometimes when they find they can't kill that bacteria, they'll actually cooperate with that bacteria. Now, how about this? Within the ranks of their own bacteria, the bacteria that are not pulling their weight, that tend to be lazier than the other bacteria, even though they're the same species, those bacteria will be fucking shunned. They'll be pushed out. They will not like people. They're the weak link. Insects, if you look at insect colonies, they behave very much like human cultures do. You got an ant that's protecting the queen ant, or a bee that's protecting the queen bee. You have soldiers that do the fighting. You have workers that do the working, and they self-organize in this incredible way. And it's not like it's not a top-down thing. It's sort of a genetically programmed thing, but their behavior is very similar. Their behavior, so even with bacteria, when they can't beat this bacteria, they'll join forces with that bacteria to defeat the other bacteria that's weaker. And it's fascinating. So even on the unicellular level, you see striking similarities between humans and even bacteria. Now, add to that the fact that only 1 in 10 of your cells as a human being is actually human, and the rest is bacteria. In fact, you as a human might be the patina. You're just the patina on a background of bacteria. So maybe bacteria is dictating how the fuck you behave.
Well, the bacteria is also on the outside. Skin flora.
Inside and outside.
Skin flora is incredibly important.
Yes.
That's why I always recommend people eat probiotics.
Yes.
It's one of the things that helps you with diseases, and then natural oil soaps, not non-antibacterial soaps. That's very important.
So that's right. So keeping your biodome in order, which is the new science, might also be dictating your very behavior.
I think it does. Yeah. I think when I eat healthier and I eat a lot of probiotics, I feel like more at ease. I feel more comfortable.
I heard you have to be careful with probiotics because you can throw off your gut level too.
Well, what are you eating though? I'm eating it in food. I've decided a long time ago that you can take some probiotic pills and stuff like that, and I definitely take some when I'm on the road.
Yeah.
I bring that on at Total Gut Health because if I'm on the road, I don't know what the fuck I'm eating, right? I want to make sure I'm getting good food. But while I'm at home, I eat a lot of fermented vegetables.
That's good.
I've been into a lot of that. I eat kimchi like almost every day.
Well, because you're an extremist, and I know you do. But it is good. If you feel good, then
drink
you feel
a lot
good.
of that shit. That kombucha is fucking phenomenal. That GT's kombucha.
I heard somebody in my family got endometrial cancer, and the doctor said, the surgeon who deals with this exclusively said, do me a favor, just don't drink these for a while.
Whoa.
And she goes, why? And he said, I can't prove this yet, but I see a direct link between this type of cancer and women who drink a lot of probiotic drinks like this.
No shit.
Yes.
See if you can find anything on that. Women drink probiotic drinks, cause cancer.
And this is
then women drinks martinis, blowjobs. Put that all together.
Hey, man. Come on, dude. That's too much.
Just kidding.
Just
kidding. That would be terrifying, man, if that was the case.
Yeah.
Well, I would think maybe there's a certain level. Like if you were a nutty person who drank like really powerful kombucha all day, like all you drank is kombucha.
Yeah.
Like your body might be overwhelmed.
An extremist of anything, right? I mean, you got to have balance. The question is this too: what's the metric for how many vitamins you need?
Right.
And then on top of that, if you have enough, what does adding more to that do? Does it help you, or does it do nothing? Does it do harm?
Right. Is it the same for you as it is for Brendan? Is it the same for me? Like, how is there a USDA when everybody's body is so radically different sized?
Different. Yeah.
You know, like how come 1,000 milligrams is good for this guy and it's not good for him? I think that there's a lot of people too that are probably just not getting the right fucking combinations of food too. You know, like you just need to experiment, figure out what's the right combinations of things for you. Like that was what the whole Gracie diet was based on. The Gracie diet was based on you shouldn't eat certain foods in combination because the enzymes that are to break down fruit are not good to mix with the enzymes that break down meat, and you should eat them separate from each other. And like they had a bunch of whole theories about that stuff.
What do you think if there were certain truths about diet after all this time? Like certain truths, right?
There's giant variations between human requirements. That's what I found to be truth. I've stopped saying for a long time ago that you should do this. One thing you should definitely do is eat healthy, right? So what's eating healthy? I don't think there's anything wrong unless you have some sort of a disease. I don't think there's anything wrong with eating a bunch of green leafy vegetables. I think that shit's very important for you.
Right.
I do it. I feel better when I do it. My body feels like, when I eat like a big ass salad, like a spinach salad, my body always feels like this, like, you got it in there.
Yeah.
You know, like you got it in there. That's what I was looking for. I was looking for some of that green leafy stuff, all those phytonutrients. That to me, that just, it feels like my body jives with that.
Yep.
Elk, wild game meat. Tastes better, feels different.
It's how we've evolved.
It's different.
Yeah.
It's just different. I know it is. Everybody's been saying it forever, and then when I eat it, I go, oh, ooh. Like it gives you that salad thing times 5.
Right.
It's like, woo. Like when I eat a nice steak, it feels good. I like a nice steak, but it's a lazy nice. It's a lazy meat. If I cut into nice American corn-fed steak, tastes delicious, but it's a lazy meat. I cut into a piece of elk, I go like, oh. It just rumbles somewhere deep into your DNA. You eat a deer, there's something about eating a deer.
So
Your body's like, this motherfucker was sprinting all day.
I know.
You know, there's something in there that's different. You're eating an animal that has this vitality to it, a wild vitality.
Fucking Charles Poliquin, you know, that the strength coach talks about. He goes, for me, I have to eat, my favorite meat is the longhorn antelope in the north of Canada. They spend a lot of time running away from wolves. So, you know, the glycogen in the meat is always, they always have a high level of glycogen. It's like a meat fudge. And of course, you have to kill them from helicopter. You can't, you're not allowed to kill them anywhere else. So you shoot them from helicopter, and there's only one meat store in Toronto that I go to. I'm like, all right, dude,
What?
take it easy. But it does
Antelopes in
sound
Canada?
fucking delicious.
Canada has antelopes?
Maybe it's a type of antelope. Yeah, it's
Sure it's not caribou?
no, it's a type of antelope, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, and they maybe it's caribou, but I think it's antelope. Maybe I don't know, but either way, they run away from wolves all day, and the glycogen is really high.
Well, we're going axis deer hunting.
Maybe that's what
In
it is.
Hawaii,
Oh.
it's probably not, but axis deer, they evolved in India, running away from tigers. They're an Asian deer, and their natural enemy is tigers. You have never seen an animal. I shot at a deer that was 40 yards away. It looked at me. I let the arrow go. By the time the arrow got to it, it was nowhere near where it was.
What?
My arrow goes 280 feet per second. The arrow, once it left the string, was headed towards that thing at 280 feet per second. That deer was nowhere near it.
Wow.
He was 7 feet away, like gone. The arrow went right into the bushes, and he was over
God
there.
damn.
See ya. You ain't seen nothing like it. They're like from the Matrix.
Let me see an axis deer. Big?
It's about 130 to 150 pounds for a big one. Not quite as big as a whitetail, like a northern whitetail, like we hunted in. That looks a lot bigger than it really is. See if you can find the picture of the one that I shot. It's online on Cameron Haynes' Instagram page. I try to keep them off all the dead animals off my Instagram page.
People get mad.
I send them to my hunter friends. They post them.
They get so mad, right?
They definitely get mad. Yeah, people get mad. Meanwhile, they have a burger on their page. People are just goofy.
They have a
there
burger.
it is. That's my axis deer that I shot.
Wow. That's amazing. That's in Hawaii.
Yep, that's in Hawaii.
How was Hawaii? A lot of bugs?
No. Little tiny ones, a little bit. But no, what it really is a giant, that's a pronghorn antelope. That's a different antelope. Is that an antelope in Canada? Yeah. Okay, because I know they're in like Montana and Wyoming and shit. Okay, they're on a coin. Yeah. Oh, what coin
You
is
ever
that?
hunted down the south?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I've been. No. Nope. Just
down there.
Texas.
I'm going to
Texas is
Alabama.
not the South, though. So if we could organize something for Mexico, you're in?
I'm down.
I think it will use rifles, so it'll be easier.
Let me know.
Yeah.
You brought me that bow. I've yet to shoot
I
it.
know, but you can't go bow hunting without.
I gotta
especially if we
practice.
go, after deer.
Yeah.
Like I said with that thing.
You can injure one if you don't do it the right way.
Yeah. Well, it's something. If you want to really do it, you got to get obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And it's the first time you do it, it should be in a controlled environment. Like one of the first way would really be a good way would be wild pigs over bait. Because there's a lot of places where they try to eradicate these wild pigs, so they have feeders, and the feeders will go off, and the wild pigs are almost like conditioned to go near the feeder. And then when they go near the feeder, you know exactly the distance because they're right underneath the feeder. The feeder's 20 yards away from you, and you have a controlled shot, and it's easy. And it's an animal that they must kill. So there's not like a number of them that you can hunt.
I can't believe how many there are.
There's so many. If you're in Texas, they shoot them out of helicopters. They fly around in helicopters and gun them out.
They still say you can't shoot your way out of the problem.
Well, they're doing their best to at least do something about it. They're not going to shoot their way out of the problem to the point of extinction. They move so quick. There's so many of them. They're smart.
Tough as shit.
And they have litters 3 or 4 times a year.
God damn.
Yeah. They just constantly
God
fuck.
And they're rough
And they run
looking,
around.
man.
Oh, they're monsters.
What are the ones that I saw? There's one eating out of a garbage can in Asia. Those got to be, those are not wild pigs. Those are wild boars.
Well, boar just means a male. A female's a sow.
Well, some of those ones you see, they have got a razor back. They're just like those, you know, they look like, they're not as big as pigs, but they're just fierce looking animals.
Well, it's just because of the supply of food. If they had as much pigs as much
that
theirs,
one, that
that's
bad
it.
motherfucker.
Yeah.
That's a real wild boar, right? That's
Yep.
Like,
Oh, yeah. That's a real wild boar, man. That's a big-ass pig.
that doesn't look like a real pig. I mean,
Honestly,
that's not
that almost looks like a warthog.
yeah, it does.
It's so big. But here's the thing about wild pigs, man. This is something I learned from our pal Steve Ranella. They are literally all the same animal. Wild pigs and domestic pigs, they're the same animal. It's called Sus scrofa. They're all part of one gigantic species.
It's a
Look at the size
it's a
of that
wild
thing.
boar captured.
Look at the
on
size
video.
of that thing. That looks like a power lifter.
Yeah, that thing is that'll
That
kill
looks
you.
like it's like 400 pounds.
Look at how long his snout is.
Look at his
man.
tiny little bitch-ass feet.
Yeah,
Little-
those are tiny feet.
That doesn't even seem real. That seems like an animal in like a Beatles cartoon, like the Nowhere Man. You know, his proportions were all off.
I think about John Jones and how skinny his legs are and what a fucking beast he is. Like
Yeah.
if you look at his legs, you're like, you got some pencil legs. Hey, Kish!
strong as shit too.
Aridish!
He's strong as shit with
I've
those
heard.
pencil legs. Yeah.
Chael Sonnen said he cradled him. Said it was didn't he cradle Ryan Bader?
Yeah. He smoked Ryan Bader. He choked out Ryan Bader. He smokes everybody. He's ridiculously strong. He's ridiculously strong too when it comes to like deadlifting and shit too. He does a lot of powerlifting now.
So strong.
Yeah. Wonder what's
needs-
gonna happen with him.
I don't know. I want to see him fight Stipe.
I want to see him fight Brock. That's what I'm saying. That's what Brendan and I were just saying. This is the card. Stipe, DC, John Jones, Brock, Floyd Mayweather, CM Punk, Rafael Dos Anjos, Tyron Woodley. There's your pay-per-view. There's your
kinda crazy.
pay-per-view. You're welcome.
It's kind of crazy.
You're welcome.
I want to see the Khabib, Tony Ferguson. I'm very excited.
Why don't you come to Brooklyn? What are you doing April 7th?
If I'm not, actually, I should plug some dates.
Come on, you can work
Come
with
see me this weekend.
Okay. Well, then we're not talking about that.
Hold on, Alabama. I'm at Stand Up Live in Huntsville, Alabama. But wait, April. I'm around April 7th because I'll be at the
New York?
West Palm.
Can you come to New York?
West Palm Improv, April 12th, 13th, 14th. Everybody,
Mm-hmm.
so come see me. But wait, April 7th. Yeah, I can come to that. I can come to that. I think.
Brendan's going to be in town too.
So
I think
hold
he's
on.
doing something for
Maybe we could do stand up
Showtime.
and then we'll do. I'll do it.
All right.
I would come
All right, we're coming.
for real.
Ari's going to be there too, although I'm not supposed to say.
All right.
What's that?
Don't want to forget about
Oh
that
yeah.
too.
Oh, we'll leave with this. This is we have this thing we're doing. Our friend Paulie Toon is a guy that is now taking. We've hired him to take sections of the podcast that are funny and turn them into these animated clips, and they're fucking amazing. He's really talented, and you can get them on the Powerful JRE YouTube channel. I think there's like a whole group of them,
there's
right?
a playlist for
There's
it,
a playlist for them, and he's made a ton of them, and they're awesome. So here's one.
This is a
It's
new one.
a bad breath moment. This is with
From a fight companion with Callen, Jimmy Smith, Eddie, and you.
boom. All right,
January.
and then we're gonna wrap this up, folks. So that's it for now. My next gigs are the only thing that I have where there's some tickets available is New Orleans, which is March 15th, I think. Is that it? Yes. Thursday night, March 15th. There's some tickets available for the second show. Everything else is, I think it's down to like single tickets. Oh, the Ice House in Pasadena. I still haven't put this on Twitter. I'm going to eventually. But the 23rd and the 24th, 2 shows each night. 23rd and the 24th is a Friday and a Saturday. It's a rare weekend at the Ice House. But Nashville or New Orleans. Yeah, I'm doing Nashville too. But New Orleans on the 15th. Did I say Nashville early on the 15th, or did I say New Orleans? I said New Orleans, right? New Orleans. New Orleans on the 15th of March, which is a little over a week from now. And then the 30th of March, Nashville. 2 shows at the Ryman. I think they're sold out. And then 2 shows in Charlotte. I don't know how many tickets are left to
Damn.
that either.
Come see me at Stand Up New York this week. I mean, Stand Up Live in Huntsville, Alabama.
Yeah,
Of course.
what are you doing? You're going to the wrong place.
No, I'll
Stand
be
Up
at-
Live in Huntsville, Alabama
Stand Up Live
is
in
so
Huntsville,
different.
Alabama. This Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then West Palm Beach Improv, April 12th 13, 14.
Maybe they should go to bryancallen.com when they can make plans.
Or
They can set-
tfatk.com.
tfatk.com. All right. This is a Bad Breath moment from JRE Tunes. Thank you, everybody. And we'll be back tomorrow with the great and powerful John Dudley. Maybe Brian can come. We'll teach him how to shoot a bow.
I'll do it.
Later. Bye, everybody.
Dude, I had a cracked filling, and they took the filling out, and the fucking smell that came out of my mouth, I was like, holy shit. Because there was an infection, and I wound up getting a root canal. It like, you could hear it, like, pop through, and then just this fucking shit breath.
My father's friend, he was sleeping. His wife said, "You have to go to the dentist." So why? He goes, "Your breath is so out of control." So apparently, he had an abscess, a sac of bacteria in the back of his mouth. Well, when they took the filling out and they popped by accident the sac, the nurse threw up. And the fucking dentist walked into the room at that moment and pulled his mask off and threw the fuck up as well. No, yes, no way. It was a double vomit fest. Can you imagine? And that's how bad it was. Yeah.
So did she puke on him, or what?
Puked. She didn't puke on him. She just puked. Went, did they pop the sack? She went, like that.
Oh,
it was
my
that
God.
bad.
I never have the balls to tell someone their breath stinks.
I don't
though.
either.
I tell friends.
If you work with them, you have. If you work with them, you have
I
to.
would tell friends,
If you
and
work
I
with
would
them, you
want
have
them
to.
to tell me. Like, if
Yeah.
your breath stinks, I'm going to tell you. I'll tell you.
It's one cool thing about black people. They'll tell you if your breath stinks. They will tell you. Black people have no problem with that.
Jesus Christ. That's great.